Chapter 10-12. Su Zimo clutched Ming Zhen beneath his ribs and sprinted into the distance. Ming Zhen's injuries were not serious. However, he was suppressed by Monk Formless because he was constantly arguing about Buddhism while fighting and was at a disadvantage. As a result, his Tao heart that he was about to condense showed signs of collapsing. If his Tao heart collapsed, his past cultivation would be for naught. Nobody could help him at this juncture. The interrogation of one's Tao heart was a huge calamity for cultivators. As long as they could tide through this calamity, they would not be tainted by evil or mental demons in the future. If they could not tide through it, everything would be over. What's the purpose of my cultivation? Ming Zhen murmured softly with a dazed expression. Long life and long vision, nirvana. Ming Zhen shook his head and denied that thought. The reason why I cultivate Buddhism is to deliver all living beings from torment. However, Monk Formless told me that there are countless living beings and countless suffering victims. There's a limit to a person's strength. How can I possibly deliver all of them? That's right. How can I possibly deliver all of them from torment? Is my Tao wrong? Is it true that I can only deliver all living beings from torment by pursuing my own Tao and cultivating to become a Buddha? Ming Zhen muttered to himself and questioned his Tao heart countless times. Throughout the entire process, Su Zimo could clearly sense that his Tao heart wavered countless times before stabilizing eventually. Furthermore, as time passed by, the glint in Ming Zhen's eyes turned brighter. That kind of gaze was sincere, pure, and flawless. I don't want to become a Buddha. As though he had made a decision, Ming Zhen's eyes shone brightly as he said slowly, only by delivering all living beings from torment can I attain Bodhi. I swear that I won't become a Buddha until hell is empty. Ming Zhen made a grand wish and established his Tao heart. Boom! The entire world trembled. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. Immediately after, a gigantic crack appeared beneath his feet. It was dark and sinister, as though it led to the 9 hells. Su Zimo focused his gaze with a shocked expression. Under the 9 underworlds, ghostly shadows were everywhere. Countless ferocious, vengeful spirits and evil spirits were stretching out their arms, as if trying to break free. However, above the heads of these vengeful spirits and evil spirits was a Buddhist monk. His entire body was shining with a sacred golden light. His expression was compassionate and his eyes were merciful. It was as if he could overcome all the sufferings in the world. The eminent monk of Buddhism suddenly opened his mouth. Only when all living beings are liberated can one attain Bodhi. If hell is not emptied, one will not become a Buddha. Make this great vow and obtain my inheritance. Voila! A blinding golden light burst forth from the eminent monk's body and scattered onto Ming Zhen's body. Ming Zhen's eyes were tightly shut and his expression was serene. Like a sleeping baby, he gradually fell into the crack uncontrollably along with the golden light. Rumble. The crack in the ground closed up and Ming Zhen and the Buddhist monk had already disappeared. At the same time, in Tianhuang mainland. All of a sudden, a voice rang out in the sky. Only when all living beings are liberated can one attain Bodhi. If hell is not emptied, one will not become a Buddha. Many cultivators were shocked when they heard that. Someone had established a Tao heart that penetrated the space of the Tao inheritance ground and affected Tianhuang mainland. 100 Refinement Sect. Extreme Fire and the others were initially gathered in the main hall. When they heard the voice outside, they walked out of the hall one after another and looked up. He has obtained the inheritance of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva of the Buddhist monasteries. A look of shock flashed through Shengguanzi's eyes. Extreme Fire nodded. That's right. Legend has it that when Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva of the upper world established his Tao, he made a great vow that he would not become a Buddha until hell was emptied. I wonder who it was that had such a compassionate heart to inherit Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's great vow and cause Tianhuang mainland to tremble. Ksitigarbha Golden Body, Elder Gu revealed a reminiscing expression. To think that this inheritance that has been severed for ages is finally about to reappear. There's going to be a lot to watch in the next Dharma characteristic ranking. Right then, a cultivator fell out of the teleportation gate behind him, panting heavily. This was the 100 Refinement sect disciple who followed Dao Bing Yuding into the Dao inheritance ground. Extreme Fire and the others entered the hall hurriedly and asked, "How is it? Any news?" Reporting to the elders. The cultivator gulped and could not conceal the shock in his eyes as he panted. Not long after Granduncle Master entered the Dao inheritance ground, he fought against the sword cultivators of Sword Sect and killed all of them. Shangguanzi and the others exchanged glances and nodded secretly. To think that after entering the Dao inheritance ground, Su Zimo could still release such terrifying combat strength despite his demon methods being suppressed. Extreme Fire's expression was normal. After all, no titular disciples of Sword Sect entered. Even with the 7 luminaries sword formation, it was not much of a threat to Su Zimo. The 100 Refinement sect cultivator continued. A day later, Granduncle Master encountered Dao Bing Glass and killed him. When they heard that, Extreme Fire and the others were shocked. To think that apart from super sects such as Heavenly Dipper sect and Chaos Essence sect, Glass Palace would also send titular disciples in. What was even more unexpected was that the titular disciple of Glass Palace would be killed by Su Zimo in the Dao inheritance ground. Too strong. Elder Gu gasped. This lad wants to step on the corpses of titular disciples to establish his Dao heart and forge a supreme great Dao. The 100 Refinement sect disciple continued, Dao being Heavenly Dipper, Dao being Zephyr Thunder, Monk Formless, Dao being Malevolent Earth and Dao being Hidden Death joined forces to set up a trap to kill Granduncle Master. Ah! The expressions of Extreme Fire and the others changed starkly as they exclaimed. What they were worried about still happened. If 5 titular disciples joined forces, there was no way they would survive. Later on, Granduncle Master obtained the help of the Fiend sect's Pure Maiden and Dao being Randang and escaped. Later on, he was ambushed by a titular disciple of Poison sect and killed Dao being Poison instead. He has already escaped. Everyone's hearts fluctuated as they listened to the news. Although it was just a simple description, it was already so soul-stirring. One could imagine how dangerous the situation was back then. The 2 titular disciples were buried in the Dao inheritance ground. Shangguanzi shook her head worriedly. This is a huge blow to the heavens. I'm afraid a calamity will descend. There's no need for a calamity, Elder Gu shook his head. That lad might not even be able to survive the calamity in front of him. Even Poison sect can't resolve the 7 lethals of Poison sect. How far can he escape? Don't forget, Diyin hasn't appeared yet. Elder Gu shook his head and sighed. Everyone frowned with worried expressions. No matter how they looked at it, Su Zimo's life was hanging by a thread. Even the slightest change could be the last straw that broke his back. At the same time, news of the Dao inheritance ground spread to Tianhuang mainland one after another and the entire cultivation world was in an uproar. So many titular disciples entered the Dao inheritance ground but 2 of them were killed by Jining Jinjuan. This was definitely an unprecedented event in history. It was not only 100 Refinement sect. At that moment, almost all the factions in Tianhuang mainland were paying attention to the news of the Dao inheritance ground. Everyone wanted to know how long the number 1 monster incarnate of history who caused a bloodbath in the Dao inheritance ground could last. Chapter 1013. Dao Inheritance Ground. After obtaining the inheritance, Mingzhen would naturally not be in any danger after entering the depths of the ground. Su Zimo was relieved as well. Thunder rumbled in the distance. With that slight delay, Dao being Heavenly Dipper and the others had already caught up. Gritting his teeth, Su Zimo determined the direction and sped towards the 3 Tribulations domain. Right now, he could only resolve the crisis by entering the 3 Tribulations domain. As long as one entered the 3 Tribulations domain, cultivators could not fight. This was also a reason why many ancient mighty figures wanted to prevent anyone from disturbing them during their tribulations. However, Su Zimo did not know if he could survive and escape to the Three Tribulations domain. The poison of the armor-piercing bone corrosion nail had already acted up. If not for his strong physique and shocking physique, the poison would have corroded his bones long ago and he would have died a long time ago. In reality, if Su Zimo could use his blood qi and use the power of his blood qi to cleanse the poison continuously, there was a high chance that he could resolve it. But now, his blood qi was condensed in his body and he could not move at all. He could only watch as the bone corrosion poison spread and corroded continuously. At that moment, his legs were already numb. If he could no longer feel his legs, it would mean that the bone corrosion poison had already invaded his bone marrow. Even if he recovered his blood qi, he might not be able to save them. Before long, a figure appeared before him. Black hair draped over his shoulders and he wore purple robes. His back was facing Su Zimo and his appearance could not be seen clearly. However, just the back view standing there was like an unreachable mountain, majestic and imposing, blocking Su Zimo's path. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. Although he could not see the purple-robed cultivator's appearance clearly, he was all too familiar with the aura of a ruler that looked down on the world. Dao being chaos essence, Di'in. To think that Di'in would appear at the final juncture. It was as though a person who was about to climb out of an abyss after painstakingly looking up only to realize that he had merely climbed out of a deep pit. There was an even larger abyss above his head. Even Su Zimo, who had just entered the Dao inheritance ground, had no confidence against Di'in. Not to mention that both his essence divinities were injured now, causing him to be in intense pain while his legs were gradually losing feeling. Fellow Daoist Su, how have you been? Di'in slowly turned around and looked at Su Zimo, who was covered in blood and looked extremely miserable. He smiled faintly. Su Zimo's face was cold and he didn't say a word. Di'in chuckled softly and walked towards Su Zimo slowly, saying in a leisurely manner, "It's truly unbelievable. Back then, you were in the limelight in Myriad Phenomenon City. How did the mighty number 1 of the phenomenon ranking fall to such a state? Where's your torch dragon eye? Where's your demon blood transforming dragon?" Di'in laughed. At this moment, he was smiling from the bottom of his heart. It felt good to be in control of everything. Especially when the great enemy who had brought him endless humiliation and almost killed him was standing right in front of him. The power of life and death was in his hands. Since ancient times, there have been countless geniuses. However, only a few have been able to make it to the end. Di'in said indifferently, "You, Su Zimo, are destined to die young." Boom! Killing intent surged in Di'in's eyes as he opened his palm. Like a gigantic millstone, it crushed down towards Su Zimo's chest. Great Chaos Essence Palm. Chaos Essence Sect's secret skill. Just as Su Zimo wanted to defend, he realized that he could no longer feel his legs. Finally, this was the end of it. Without feeling in his legs, he could not support his strength. There was no way he could withstand the great Chaos Essence Palm purely with the burst of his physical body. In a flash, Su Zimo wanted to conjure a dermic art. However, a tearing pain came from his essence spirit in his consciousness. Before the dermic art could be conjured, it dissipated. A look of mockery flashed through Di'in's eyes. Bang! His palm pressed down on Su Zimo's chest and released a crushing and killing power that was violent and ferocious. Shing! Su Zimo's green robes shattered instantly. The perfect-grade inner armor on his upper body lasted for a moment before it was crushed into pieces by the power of the great Chaos Essence Palm and fell to the ground. A perfect-grade Dao being dermic weapon could not withstand the power of Di'in's palm strike. Di'in was even more terrifying than 100 years ago. Not only that, the remaining power of the great Chaos Essence Palm surged and burst forth, surging into Su Zimo's body and shattering the power that Demoness Ji transferred to him. Su Zimo fell not far away and coughed out mouthfuls of blood. His organs were already ruptured by Di'in's palm strike. "You're finished," Di'in strode towards Su Zimo leisurely. Right then, a figure barged in and grabbed Su Zimo on the ground before sprinting into the distance. That figure had long been in Di Yin's line of sight. However, he had not expected that someone would dare to snatch someone right in front of him. "Master, hang in there. I'll bring you away." Solitary Cloud hugged Su Zimo and sprinted on the ground with his physical burst, looking clumsy and pitiful. "Master, let's return to Howling Moon Mountain. There's Monkey, Linghu, and Little Fox there. No one will dare to hurt you in Howling Moon Mountain." Solitary Cloud looked at Su Zimo, who was coughing out blood continuously with a sorrowful expression and bloodshot eyes. Su Zimo's consciousness was starting to blur. "Solitary Cloud, hurry, let go of me. I'll escape myself." Su Zimo's gaze was a little unfocused as he stuttered. Blood flowed continuously from his mouth in a frightening manner. "Master, don't speak anymore. I won't leave." Solitary Cloud shouted, "I once swore that I would follow you through life and death. I, Solitary Cloud, am a man of my word and will never leave. You don't know who Di Yin is." Su Zimo tried his best to stay awake and not faint as he panted. "If he wants to attack, you won't be able to escape. You'll only be able to live if you abandon me." "You're wrong," Di Yin's voice suddenly sounded in Solitary Cloud's ears. That aura caused a chill to run down his spine. "Even if he abandons you right now, he won't be able to escape." Di Yin smiled sinisterly and struck directly, slapping Solitary Cloud's back heavily. Poof! Solitary Cloud's chest was penetrated by Di Yin's palm and a stream of blood spewed out. The hot, scarlet blood splattered on Su Zimo's face, causing him to be startled awake. "Solitary Cloud!" Su Zimo shouted and reached out in a panic, wanting to stop the blood from Solitary Cloud's chest. However, blood gushed out like a fountain and could not be stopped no matter what. Solitary Cloud's heart was already shattered and his essence spirit was filled with cracks. The bones in Solitary Cloud's chest were all broken. However, his eyes were still widened and he staggered forward with difficulty with his final bit of willpower. Right from the beginning, he did not let go of Su Zimo's arms. Step by step, finally, Solitary Cloud's body swayed and he lowered his gaze, murmuring, "Master, I can't hold on any longer. I can only bring you here." Solitary Cloud. Su Zimo's voice trembled and he could no longer hold it in as tears streamed down his sleeves. Chapter 10:14. Is it painful? Di Yin looked at the current state Su Zimo was in and could not help but laugh with the pleasure of revenge. He enjoyed the current feeling. The more pain Su Zimo was in, the happier he was. "Do you remember what I said in the primordial battlefield?" Di Yin looked down at Su Zimo from above and said slowly, "I said that I would definitely take revenge when we meet again." Su Zimo grit his teeth and remained silent. With reddened eyes, he controlled his spirit consciousness and dragged Solitary Cloud into his storage bag bit by bit. It was just a simple action, but his primordial spirit felt like it was being torn apart, and he almost fainted. If not for the fact that Solitary Cloud had once followed him and absorbed the dragon chi to cultivate and strengthen his bloodline, Solitary Cloud's essence spirit would have been destroyed by Di Yin's palm strike. Although Solitary Cloud was not dead, he could not hold on for long. This palm of Di Yin's virtually crippled his fleshly body completely. His heart was shattered, his sternum shattered and his life force was severed. Only his essence spirit was still shrouded by a hint of vitality and emitted a weak glow. By the looks of it, the glow on Solitary Cloud's essence spirit would dim forever in less than 2 hours. Right now, Su Zimo's life was hanging by a thread, but he did not give up on Solitary Cloud. Even if there was only a slim chance of survival, he had to leave with Solitary Cloud. Solitary Cloud's vow to follow him in life and death was not the only thing. It was also his promise to Solitary Cloud. Sigh, to think that Su Zimo would still die in Di Yin's hands in the end. Including the fallen Dao being glass, Dao being poison and now Diyin, there are a total of 8 titular disciples attacking him. Even the void reversion Dharma Dao Jun will have to die here, let alone Jinying Jinjuan. Although this battle was too unfair for Su Zimo, there's nothing much to say about the winner. From today onwards, I'm afraid no one will be able to threaten Diyin anymore. At that moment, many cultivators had already gathered nearby and watched with conflicted expressions. Dao being Heavenly Dipper and the others also arrived nearby. They did not step forward and merely watched coldly from the side. Actually, you don't have to suffer. Diyin did not want to waste any more time. He walked towards Su Zimo and said calmly, because I will fulfill your wishes and send you both down the path of Acheron. Boom! Diyin stretched out his palm and formed a huge millstone that pressed down on Su Zimo. Suddenly, a dark light tore through the air and expanded rapidly in midair, as though it had transformed into a pitch-black brick. It shone with 6 dermic patterns and charged towards Diyin's palm. Xiantian Daoist artifact. Diyin's eyes shone brightly as killing intent surged in them. Who would dare to make a move in front of him? Cries of surprise could be heard from the crowd. Who was Diyin? In the cultivation world, he might only be a titular disciple. However, in this Dao inheritance ground, Diyin was the king, the son of heaven. The wrath of the son of heaven could cause millions of corpses to fall. Even Dao being Heavenly Dipper and the other titular disciples were wary of Diyin and did not advance. Which cultivator in this Dao inheritance ground would be so blind as to attack him? You must have a death wish. Even though he was barehanded, Diyin had no intention of stopping against a Khanate Daoist dermic weapon. His blood chi surged and dermic powers surged, doubling the power of his great chaos essence palm. Boom! The gigantic millstone formed by Diyin's palm collided with the black brick with a deafening bang. At the point of collision, air currents surged and gravel filled the air. Dao being Heavenly Dipper and the other titular disciples were shocked and their pupils constricted slightly. Diyin was even more terrifying than they had imagined. Among all the titular disciples, including the fallen Dao being glass, Diyin was probably the only one who dared to receive a Khanate dermic weapon barehanded. Both sides clashed head-on and Diyin did not retreat at all. However, the black brick flew back and landed in the hands of a cultivator who charged over. The person was dressed in grey Daoist robes and had a fair, beardless face. He was slightly plump but his movement technique was extremely agile. The intruder made use of the fact that the black brick was blocking Diyin to rush forward. With a flip of his hand, he carried Su Zimo who was lying on the ground and fled without even turning back. It's you. Diyin's gaze was sinister as he was enraged. In a flash, he sped forward. His figure tore through the air at such a fast speed and ferocious momentum that a buzzing sound could be heard in midair. It was soul-stirring. Even if you're the successor of Enigma Palace, I'll kill you here today for ruining my plans. Diyin chased after the grey-robed cultivator with a bone-chilling voice and endless killing intent in his eyes. He had to kill Su Zimo in the Dao inheritance ground and not allow any accidents to happen. He would kill anyone who stood in his way. The successor of Enigma Palace has appeared as well. Is Su Zimo related to Enigma Palace? By the looks of it, the successor of Enigma Palace isn't a match for Diyin either. He escaped after a single exchange. When they saw that, many cultivators were invigorated and discussed once more. Enigma Palace was the most mysterious super sect in Tianhuang mainland. The so-called 9 immortal sects, 8 demon regions, and the final 2 islands and 1 palace referred to Enigma Palace. The successor of Enigma Palace was equivalent to the titular disciples of the supersections. However, they rarely participated in such fights. Be it the Jin Dan phenomenon ranking or the Heaven and Earth Dharma characteristic ranking, the successors of Enigma Palace would not participate in the fight. Therefore, every successor of Enigma Palace was the most mysterious existence in the eyes of the cultivators. nobody knew their true strength. However, the seniors of the various sects would instruct their disciples to try their best not to be enemies with the successors of Enigma Palace. Dao being Heavenly Dipper and the other titular disciples frowned and followed hurriedly. Su Zimo's death was already a foregone conclusion. How could anything change because of a single disciple of Enigma Palace? The gray-robed cultivator sprinted the entire way. However, he heard the wind howling behind him as a powerful and violent aura closed in rapidly. The gray-robed cultivator glanced sideways. Dean was following not far behind him with a dark expression and killing intent. His movement technique was frighteningly fast and he would catch up within more than 10 breaths. Fu *K. The gray-robed cultivator was shocked. He swiped his storage bag and took out a dirty and tattered bag. He muttered something and tossed it behind him. The tattered bag floated and expanded continuously, trapping Dean, who was charging over. The mouth of the bag constricted rapidly. Ah! Dean's furious roar sounded from within the bag, causing one's heart to shudder. This disciple of Enigma Palace is indeed capable. He seems to have trapped Dean. A cultivator exclaimed. The gray-robed cultivator grinned and turned to continue running. That was because he knew that although the tattered bag was a unique treasure, it could not trap Dean. Before long, a roar sounded from behind him. Let's see where you can escape to. Dean tore the bag and broke free. He was filled with killing intent and rage as he chased after the gray-robed cultivator. Chapter 10:15. Brother Lin, you're here too. Lying on the back of the gray-robed cultivator, Su Zimo swallowed a large number of elixirs and the rumbling medicinal effects spread into his body. His condition improved slightly as he spoke softly. The disciple of Enigma Palace was none other than Lin Xuanji. A friend in need was a friend indeed. Su Zimo did not have many friends ever since he started cultivating. Among them, some were frivolous, some were honest, some were cold and murderous while some were just toying around. Their personalities were different, and the Tao techniques they cultivated were also different. Immortal sects, Buddhist sects, fiend sects, and heretical sections. However, there was something in common about them. All of them were sincere and righteous people. That was the case for Demoness Ji, Mingzhen and Lin Xuanji. Even Solitary Cloud was the same. Demoness Ji and Mingzhen had both obtained the inheritance of mighty figures and it could be considered as a blessing in disguise. As for Solitary Cloud, Su Zimo's heart ached at the thought of Solitary Cloud. Lin Xuanji asked with a worried expression, Brother Su, how are you? Still all right, Su Zimo forced himself to be spirited and replied. Actually, he was in a terrible state. His organs were already ruptured and his essence spirit was severely injured as well. The bone corrosion poison in his legs had already seeped into his bone marrow and was spreading gradually. Su Zimo's spirit consciousness shifted and he withdrew a small bottle from his storage bag, pouring out an elixir. Lin Xuanji caught a glimpse of it with a delighted expression. Life preservation elixir. That's something good. Hurry and swallow it. At the very least, you can preserve your life. We'll talk about it after we escape. Su Zimo did not say anything. Instead, he placed the life preservation elixir carefully into Solitary Cloud's mouth. The life preservation elixir could preserve Solitary Cloud's life for at least a month. Screech! Lin Xuanji's eyes widened and he nearly stomped his feet in anxiety, yelling, Are you stupid? You can't even hold on for much longer and you still care about that WIRM? I'm fine, Su Zimo's lips twitched as he smiled. But he can't die. How are you fine? How much longer can you last in your current state? How do you cure the bone-corroding poison in your body? The reason why they are called the poison sects 7 lethals is because even the poison sect themselves do not have an antidote for these 7 poisons. Anyone who is afflicted by them will definitely die. If not for the fact that he was being hunted down by Dean, Lin Xuanji truly wanted to throw Su Zimo down and give him a good scolding. His injuries are a little serious, but he shouldn't die. Su Zimo could still smile. Even though his bloodline had been suppressed and he was unable to circulate it, his bloodline was still in his body. It was still terrifyingly powerful and impervious to all poisons. It was impossible for the bone-corroding poison to kill him. However, if he wanted to expel the bone-eroding poison from his body, it would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. At the very least, it was impossible for him to do so in his current state. Brother Su, you have to hold on. I've already offended Diyin, and now you're dead. I've really gotten myself into trouble and made a wasted trip. Lin Xuanji muttered as he carried Su Zimo on his back and fled, as though he was afraid that Su Zimo would faint and never wake up. My master divined that you'll definitely face a calamity this time round, so I hurried over. Damned old man, the older he gets, the more muddle-headed he gets. All he does is spout nonsense. You entered the Dao inheritance ground and faced so many titular disciples. Even if King think with my butt, I can tell that you're going to face a calamity. Is there a need to divine it? Initially, Su Zimo was truly about to faint. However, he could not help but chuckle when he heard Lin Xuanji's interesting words. He knew that Lin Xuanji was thinking of ways to save him and keep him awake. Lin Xuanji turned back and was so scared that his face turned pale as he cursed, F***ck, Diyin is chasing so closely like a mad dog. He's trying to kill me. Lin Xuanji's movement technique could not compare to Diyin's. If not for the fact that he just now had delayed Diyin for a while with that lousy bag, Diyin would have caught up to him long ago. Brother Lin, listen to me. Su Zimo perked up and raised his arm slightly, pointing in a direction. Go there. Ah. Lin Xuanji was stunned for a moment before he was delighted. Brother Su, you have a backup plan over there? Impressive, brilliant. Without hesitation, Lin Xuanji changed directions and sprinted. After fleeing for a while more, Lin Xuanji gradually realized that something was amiss and frowned. Brother Su, what backup plan do you have here? This direction seems to be the Three Tribulations domain. It's the Three Tribulations domain, Su Zimo said, throw me into the Three Tribulations domain and leave this place. Diyin wants to kill me, not you. Are you crazy? Lin Xuanji shouted, you still want to barge into the Three Tribulations domain in your current state? What's the difference between barging into the Three Tribulations domain and courting death? The Three Tribulations domain tests a cultivator's Dao heart. Although I'm severely injured, my Dao heart is still there. Su Zimo's tone was resolute as he said slowly, I'll definitely be able to obtain the inheritance within the Three Tribulations domain. But, Lin Xuanji was still worried. Su Zimo continued, furthermore, I'm currently poisoned. Given my current state and methods, there's no way I can dispel it. Ah. You want to make use of the power of the Three Tribulations domain. Lin Xuanji's eyes lit up. That's right. Su Zimo nodded. I can only dispel the bone corrosion poison that has already seeped into my bones with the help of external forces. But, that's way too painful. Lin Xuanji shuddered at the thought of it. Su Zimo said, Brother Lin, the Three Tribulations domain is my only chance. Sensing Su Zimo's determination, Lin Xuanji grit his teeth. Let's go, I'll bring you to the Three Tribulations domain. If you die inside and turn into a wandering ghost, don't come looking for me. Don't worry, Su Zimo smiled gently. Now that he had made that decision, Lin Xuanji no longer hesitated. Taking a deep breath of air, he sped in the direction of the Three Tribulations domain. Not long after, an enormous and vast area of ice and frost appeared on the horizon ahead. Cold winds whistled within it, connecting the heavens and the earth, and it swept up numerous hurricanes with a shocking momentum. Where are they going? Are they going to barge into the Three Tribulations domain? Isn't that just sending themselves to their deaths? I reckon that Su Zimo would rather die in the Three Tribulations domain than be killed by Diyin. The group of cultivators discussed among themselves as they gathered over. Before long, Lin Xuanji arrived at the edge of the Three Tribulations domain. "Brother Su, this is as far as I can send you." Lin Xuanji stopped in his tracks and sprinted the entire way. A thin layer of sweat had already formed on his forehead as he panted slightly. He knew that this farewell was very likely to be the last farewell between the two of them. "Send me in." Su Zimo endured the pain in his body and smiled. "Don't worry, we'll meet again." "Brother Su, have a safe journey." Lin Xuanji grit his teeth and yanked Su Zimo off his back, throwing him into the Three Tribulations domain before him. Su Zimo was instantly drowned by the cold wind and disappeared. The cold wind inside was laced with frost that could isolate one's spirit consciousness and vision. The cultivators standing outside did not know what was going on inside. Even if they entered, the visibility was extremely low. Lin Xuanji threw Su Zimo into the Three Tribulations domain and fled to the side. Barge into the Three Tribulations domain. Di'in arrived at the edge of the Three Tribulations domain and ignored Lin Xuanji beside him. He merely sneered, "It's just a temporary delay. Let's see how long you can last in the Three Tribulations domain." Hesitating for a moment, Di'in entered the Three Tribulations domain as well. Immediately after, Dao being Heavenly Dipper, Dao being Zephyr Thunder, Monk Formless and Dao being Malevolent Earth arrived as well. Even Dao being Hidden Death had appeared. The 5 titular disciples exchanged glances and entered the Three Tribulations domain almost at the same time. Chapter 10:16. When they saw that, all the cultivators were shocked. For the sake of Su Zimo, 6 titular disciples have barged into the Three Tribulations domain at the same time. This is an unprecedented spectacle. Su Zimo's death is a foregone conclusion. The only reason the 6 titular disciples entered is to split the treasures. Although cultivators were not allowed to fight within the Three Tribulations domain, if the cultivators inside died, the treasures dropped would naturally become ownerless. Anyone who saw it could take it away at any time. Some cultivators who could not hold back their curiosity followed into the Three Tribulations domain. However, most of them walked out trembling the moment they entered. Some cultivators were pale and their beards were covered in frost as their bodies trembled uncontrollably. Some cultivators were already injured and the blood they coughed out was laced with ice shards. Not everyone could attempt the Three Tribulations domain. Even so, more and more cultivators gathered here. Most of them stood outside and waited for the final outcome. Middle Continent, 100 Refinements Sect. A void reversion retreated from the Tao inheritance ground in advance and recounted everything that happened inside. The entire hall was silent. He was poisoned and severely injured by Di'in. After entering the Three Tribulations domain, his fate was unknown. None of the news was beneficial to Su Zimo. Everyone's expression was solemn as they remained silent. Everyone knew that entering the Three Tribulations domain was equivalent to announcing Su Zimo's death. Throughout history, no one had been able to pass through the Three Tribulations domain. However, Su Zimo had no way out. Behind him were the 6 titular disciples. He would die if he advanced or retreated. Extreme Fire's expression was terrible and his eyes surged with endless rage. A moment later, Shengguanzi sighed softly. Right now, we can only leave it to fate. At the same time, news of what happened in the Tao inheritance ground spread to Tianhuang mainland one after another. The entire cultivation world was in an uproar. Di'in failed to kill Su Zimo even with his attack and allowed him to escape to the Three Tribulations domain. This Su Zimo is really lucky. There shouldn't be any unforeseen events this time. After entering the Three Tribulations domain, Su Zimo has no way out. He can only continue forward. That's right. Since ancient times, there have been countless geniuses and monsters, but no one has been able to clear the Three Tribulations domain. What's more, I heard that he has been poisoned and is seriously injured. The #1 monster of all times, in the end, failed to become a legend, vanishing into thin air. The moment Su Zimo entered the Three Tribulations domain, he felt a bone-piercing chill. A layer of frost instantly condensed on his body. Woo-woo. A cold wind blew against his face. This wind was even more powerful than divine weapons. Like a steel needle, it pierced through Su Zimo's flesh and blew into his organs. Su Zimo's face was pale. He clenched his teeth and curled up in pain. His organs were already severely injured to begin with. Now that he was blown by the extreme northern wind, his organs were instantly covered in frost. Su Zimo could not feel his legs and could only rely on his arms to crawl forward bit by bit. His entire body was shuddering and his gaze was resolute. The deeper he went, the more vicious the Yin wind became. Initially, the Yin wind was like a steel needle. Towards the end, the Yin wind was like a sharp saber that sliced across Su Zimo's body repeatedly. The Yin wind was like a knife and was extremely painful. This pain was not something that humans could endure. Poof! 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 Su Zimo's body was already lacerated by the Yin wind. Before he bled, his wounds were already frozen. He was not wrong. The original intention of the Three Tribulations domain was to test a cultivator's Tao heart. However, the first two trials, the extreme northern wind and red lotus karmic fire, tested a cultivator's body and will. Without a strong physique and will to endure endless pain, one would not be able to obtain the recognition of many ancient mighty figures. The further he crawled, the stronger the Yin wind would be. Towards the end, the Yin wind had already penetrated Su Zimo's flesh and slashed against his bones, slicing back and forth with an ear-piercing sound. The Yin wind was bone-chilling. Su Zimo was in so much pain that his body trembled continuously, almost spasming. Even so, he did not make a single sound. Suddenly, a look of joy appeared in Su Zimo's eyes. Initially, his legs were corroded by the bone corrosion poison and he could not feel them. However, as the Yin wind scraped against his bones continuously, his legs gradually felt pain. It became clearer and more intense. Su Zimo's features were contorted from the pain. However, he smiled. This meant that the extreme northern wind could indeed dispel the bone corrosion poison. Enduring the pain, Su Zimo struggled to stand up from the ground. His gaze was even more resolute as he headed towards the depths of the Three Tribulations domain. Behind him, there were 6 other figures who were struggling to move forward. Although Di Yin and the others were titular disciples, they had to endure the pain of being sliced by the Yin wind after entering the Three Tribulations domain. Slash after slash. Slash after slash on the bones. With every step they took, the 6 of them would tremble. However, they persevered and glared at the figure that was crawling forward slowly. They waited for the figure to stop. They did not believe that they could not survive a poisoned and severely injured Jining Jinjuan. However, before long, under their gazes, the figure stood up amidst the rumbling cold wind and walked forward step by step. Tao being malevolent earth could not hold it in and wanted to curse. However, instantly, the Yin wind entered his mouth and cut open his mouth. He swallowed the rest of his words. What a lunatic! Tao being malevolent earth roared internally. Tao being hidden death walked slower and slower, already thinking of retreating. His initial goal was to assassinate Su Zimo. He entered the Three Tribulations domain to see if he could fish in troubled waters and snatch 1 or 2 treasures from Su Zimo. But now, he did not want to persevere anymore. If he continued, he might not be able to obtain Su Zimo's treasures and might even die in the extreme northern wind. No matter what, Su Zimo was bound to die. His goal would be considered as accomplished. At that thought, Tao being hidden death stopped in his tracks and retreated slowly. When he saw Tao being hidden death retreat, Tao being malevolent earth wavered as well. Among the 6 titular disciples, the only one who did not waver and continued forward was Di Yin. Snatching Su Zimo's treasures was only one of the reasons. More importantly, he had to see Su Zimo die personally before he could feel at ease. This time round, he had lured Su Zimo into the Dao inheritance ground. If he could not kill the latter, he would not have such a chance in the future. The Yin wind howled and the air was cold. The wounds on Su Zimo's body increased in number in a shocking manner. The pain in his legs intensified as well. However, as though he could not feel it, Su Zimo's footsteps became firmer. If he wanted to establish his Dao, he would definitely have to endure endless suffering and danger. Moreover, these hardships and dangers would constantly temper his Dao heart. In the end, it would allow him to transform, be reborn, and condense a supreme Dao heart that didn't fear the heavens, the earth, ghosts, gods, or evil. Chapter 10:17. Outside the Three Tribulations domain. More and more cultivators gathered and peered into the place. They've been inside for an hour, right? No one has come out yet. Could Su Zimo still be alive? These titular disciples are truly terrifying. We can't even last a few breaths inside. To think that they can last so long. Look, someone's coming out. A figure gradually became clearer and walked out of the Three Tribulations domain, covered in frost. It was Dao being Hidden Death. Dao being Hidden Death stood at the edge of the Three Tribulations domain expressionlessly and tried his best to recover his blood qi. He swallowed a few elixirs before letting out a long breath. After calming down for a long time, his figure swayed and gradually blurred, disappearing from everyone's sight. A wave of exclamations sounded from the crowd. It had to be said that such a concealment technique could already deceive the world and communicate with ghosts and gods. Dao being Hidden Death did not leave, he still had to wait for the final outcome. After another 15 minutes, another figure appeared in the Three Tribulations domain. Dao being Malevolent Earth. Dao being Malevolent Earth was not in a good state either, as though he had suffered quite a bit. He shuddered and even the aura he exhaled was filled with frost. He truly could not hold on any longer. The reason why Dao being Heavenly Dipper and the others could persevere was because they had some obsessions in their hearts. Dao being Heavenly Dipper wanted Su Zimo's Divine Phoenix Bone. Dao being Zephyr Thunder wanted the Purple Thunder Manual. Monk Formless wanted Qinglian and the Daming True Sutra. As for Di-Yin, he wanted to kill Su Zimo personally. Dao being Malevolent Earth did not have the obsessions of Di-Yin and the others. He had already established his Dao heart and obtained the inheritance of a conjoint body mighty figure. He truly did not want to endure such pain anymore. In the Dao inheritance ground, as long as one established their Dao heart and obtained the inheritance of a conjoint body mighty figure, no more inheritances would descend. 2 of the 6 titular disciples have already come out. To think that Su Zimo is still alive. I'm really curious how long more he can last. Many cultivators were still waiting patiently. In the Three Tribulations domain, Su Zimo traversed the extreme north-east wind and went deeper. His body was already covered with cuts and bruises from the Yin wind. His originally delicate and handsome appearance had already been scratched beyond recognition. Su Zimo was completely unaware of this. His gaze was firm and unwavering. Half of the bone-corroding poison on his legs had already been removed by the bone-scraping extreme north-east wind. However, the extreme north-east wind could not penetrate the bone marrow of the bone-eroding poison, and there was no way to neutralize it. Su Zimo was not worried. He believed that there would be a solution. Behind him, apart from Di-Yin, Dao being Heavenly Dipper, Dao being Zephyr Thunder and Monk Formless were already slowing down. The 3 of them stared at Su Zimo's blurry back, their eyes filled with resentment and unwillingness. Not everyone could withstand the bone-chilling pain of the cold wind. Holding on until now, the 3 of them had already reached their limits. Dao being Zephyr Thunder paused with a grim expression. At this point, he could only give up on the Purple Thunder Manual. If he, a titular disciple, was implicated and died here for the sake of a cultivation technique, he would probably become the greatest joke of the cultivation world. He chose to withdraw. After persevering for a while longer, Monk Formless could not hold on any longer and turned to leave. There were only 3 people left in the 3 tribulations domain. Su Zimo, Di Yin and Dao being Heavenly Dipper. Finally, after 4 hours, the first tribulation was finally over. In Dao being Heavenly Dipper's vision, there was no longer a howling yin wind at the front. Instead, there was nothing but a desert. Su Zimo, who had arrived at the edge of the desert, strode in without hesitation. The moment he entered, Su Zimo's expression changed. Suddenly, his body felt hot and the temperature rose continuously. His entire body creaked and his bones seemed like they were about to explode. The red lotus karmic fire was triggered by a cultivator's greed, anger and obsession, from the inside out. Swoosh! A ball of flames burned within Su Zimo's body and grew larger, bursting out from his organs and the surface of his skin. His eyes, ears, mouth and nose were spewing flames. This was a sudden change from the extreme cold just now to the extreme heat. The 2 powers of extreme cold and extreme heat clashed repeatedly in Su Zimo's body. This was 10 times more painful than the bone-chilling yin wind just now. Dao being Heavenly Desolate looked at Su Zimo who was already on fire but did not stop in the desert and had a fearful expression, not wanting to follow. This person was definitely a lunatic. He chose to give up as well. Of the 6 titular disciples, Di Yin was the only one left. Standing at the edge of the desert, Di Yin grit his teeth and barged in as he looked at Su Zimo who was burning with raging flames. Swoosh! A ball of flames rose within his body as well. Cultivators could not avoid greed, anger and obsession in their cultivation. They would definitely be tainted with karma and have negative karma in their bodies. No one could stop the karmic fire. Ugh! Di Yin grunted. The pain of being burned by the karmic fire almost made him turn and leave. However, right after, he endured it with his immense endurance and walked forward, following closely behind Su Zimo. The karmic fire burned and purged the coldness within Su Zimo's body. The initially frozen blood began to melt as well. His flesh exploded under the roasting of the karmic fire. From afar, it looked like a blood-colored lotus that was shocking. Su Zimo traversed the desert and thousands of red lotuses bloomed on his body. His flesh and essence chi were withering and being burned to ashes by the karmic fire. Su Zimo's storage bag was gripped in his right palm. With the protection of the divine phoenix bone, his storage bag was safe. Enduring the endless pain, Su Zimo advanced step by step, leaving a series of blood-colored footprints behind him. As he ventured deeper into the desert, the karmic fire burned even more intensely. Su Zimo turned into a gigantic fireball that was scarlet. Not only did the karmic fire burn his flesh, it burned his bones as well. One after another, his bones were burned red and almost transparent. The marrow within was already bubbling under the heat of the karmic fire. The bone corrosion poison that had initially seeped into his bones was burned to ashes by the karmic fire. With the bone-chilling wind and the karmic fire burning, the bone corrosion poison in Su Zimo's body was completely dispelled. Sensing the changes in his body, Su Zimo was invigorated and howled into the skies in the desert. The karmic fire that spewed out of his mouth seemed like it wanted to transform into a divine dragon that soared into the skies. The tempering of the wind and fire tribulations strengthened Su Zimo's will and he was no longer afraid. Di Yin's footsteps gradually slowed down. He could not hold on any longer. He looked at Su Zimo who was gradually disappearing into the distance with a cold expression. Even the burning karmic fire in his body could not extinguish the killing intent in his eyes. So what if you can survive the wind and fire tribulations? I don't believe that you can survive the Tao Heart Thunder tribulation. He lamented internally and suppressed the indignance in his heart before turning to leave. Su Zimo was the only one left in the 3 tribulations domain. After an unknown period of time, a gigantic lightning pool seemed to be hovering in the firmaments ahead. It shone brightly and thunder rumbled in a shuddering manner. Su Zimo had finally reached the final tribulation. Looking at the lightning pool before him, Su Zimo took a deep breath and strode in without hesitation. Chapter 10:18. The lightning pool hovered above the firmaments. Initially, it was calm without any ripples. However, the moment Su Zimo stepped into the thunder domain, the thunder pool seemed to have been triggered by something, and instantly, ripples surged violently with a terrifying might. Rumble. Thunder rumbled and was oppressive. All of a sudden, lightning flashed in a bedazzling manner. A gigantic bolt of lightning curved and appeared in the void, landing on Su Zimo. Bang! Su Zimo was sent flying by the bolt of lightning and somersaulted in midair before landing on the ground and spitting out a mouthful of blood. The pain was indescribable. Su Zimo felt like he could be reduced to ashes at any moment under the lightning pool. A sense of fear grew. However, it was suppressed by Su Zimo's Dao heart instantly. Su Zimo stood up and grit his teeth, continuing forward. Snap! Thunder exploded. A scarlet bolt of lightning descended and struck Su Zimo's head, almost knocking him unconscious. His body was already tattered after the wind and fire tribulations. Now that he was struck by 2 thunder tribulations, his life force was draining bit by bit. If he continued, he would truly die. Looking at the endless lightning domain before him, Su Zimo looked lost for the first time. Should he continue? Let's just leave it at that. The moment that thought appeared, it was magnified infinitely. It was as though that voice sounded in every corner of Su Zimo's mind, telling him to turn back and stop advancing. If he persevered, he would only die. Right at this moment, countless inheritances outside the 3 tribulations domain had strange movements, and many inheritance phenomena were produced. The light of the legacy phenomenons shone on the 3 tribulations domain and enveloped Su Zimo. There were all sorts of inheritances from the immortal, Buddhist and fiend sects. At that moment, as long as he gave up on advancing and nodded, he would be able to choose one of the inheritances and leave the 3 tribulations domain. He would no longer have to endure the pain and the threat of death. In fact, even the inheritances outside the 3 tribulations domain were very powerful. They might not be weaker than the inheritances in the 3 tribulations domain. The inheritance of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva was outside. The inheritance of the fiend sect's pure maiden sect was outside as well. Throughout history, no one had been able to clear the 3 tribulations domain. Why should I try to be brave? Perhaps the legend of the 3 tribulations domain was just a scam. Even if he cleared the 3 tribulations domain, there would be nothing inside. Lin Xuanji's master once said that he was facing a calamity. That calamity might be the thunder tribulation before him. As long as he retreated, he could avoid the calamity. Countless thoughts surfaced in his mind. He was wavering. For a moment, he almost nodded his head, chose a succession, and left this godforsaken place. However, he did not. Su Zimo stood motionlessly in the thunder domain. As long as he stayed where he was and didn't move forward, the lightning tribulation wouldn't descend. Time passed by. Su Zimo lowered his head slightly and the confusion in his eyes gradually disappeared. Although his body was already broken, his eyes were even brighter and filled with determination. Su Zimo moved and took another step forward. Boom! The thunder tribulation descended. Exclamation point. Su Zimo was almost sprawled on the ground and his life force was even weaker. However, he struggled to stand up and continued forward. Boom! After being struck down by the thunder tribulation, he stood up and continued forward. It was a cycle. Su Zimo's initially wavering heart became firmer and more stable. Wind could not extinguish it and fire could not melt it. Even the thunder tribulation that could destroy all living beings could not shake his Tao heart. He wanted to clear the three tribulations domain not only for the inheritance within, but also to establish his Tao heart. His Tao had no path of retreat and was indomitable. Each thunder tribulation caused Su Zimo to feel the deep fear of death. However, he did not retreat. Su Zimo relied on his strong willpower and perseverance towards his Tao heart to stand up time and time again after being struck down. Above his head, the lightning pool surged, as though it was conjuring pairs of eyes that were looking at the staggering figure below. Suddenly, a dignified voice sounded from the thunder domain. "Why are you cultivating?" "I want to establish a Tao." Su Zimo raised his head and said word by word with a bright gaze, "This Tao is different from the immortal, Buddhist and fiend Taos." "What is your Tao?" the dignified voice asked, without the slightest bit of emotion or fluctuation. "I call it Wu Dao." "What is Wu Dao?" "Wu Dao is to advance bravely." After saying that, Su Zimo suddenly took a step forward. "Wu Dao is to go straight to the heart." Another step forward. "Wu Dao is to repay favors and take revenge." He took another step forward. With every sentence, Su Zimo took a step forward. With every step, his aura increased and his Tao heart became even more resolute and unshakable. Wu Dao is to kill decisively. The path of martial arts is about being unyielding, about resisting. Wu Dao is to be bold and resolute despite millions of people. Wu Dao is to fight against immortals and fiends and fight against the heavens and earth. My Tao title is Araki Takashi. I'm willing to establish Wu Dao and break the shackles of all living beings so that all living beings in the world can cultivate and become immortals. The word desolate in his Tao title was derived from Tianhuang mainland and the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the Great Wilderness. The meaning of martial was Wu Dao. After Su Zimo said that final sentence, the lightning pool surged instantly and huge waves surged, as though it was shaken immensely. The dignified voice from the beginning sounded once more and shook the world. Araki Takashi shall establish a Tao and impart martial arts to all living beings. Araki Takashi shall establish a Tao and impart martial arts to all living beings. Middle Continent, 100 Refinement Sect. Extreme Fire and the others were in the main hall, listening to the news from their disciples. The current situation is still unclear. Dean and the other 6 titular disciples entered the three tribulations domain and have already come out. However, there's still no news of Granduncle Master. The 100 Refinement Sect cultivator said. Extreme Fire and the others exchanged glances and could see the worry in each other's eyes. Throughout history, no one had been able to barge through the three tribulations domain. They were afraid that Su Zimo would barge into the three tribulations domain in his hot-bloodedness and end up dying. Right then, a dignified voice echoed in the skies above Tianhuang mainland and spread to every corner of Tianhuang mainland. Araki Takashi shall establish a Tao and impart martial arts to all living beings. Araki Takashi shall establish a Tao and impart martial arts to all living beings. Araki Takashi shall establish a Tao and impart martial arts to all living beings. He had shouted these words 3 times. Each time, it was louder and deafening. Extreme Fire looked up at the firmaments agitatedly and his body trembled uncontrollably as he exclaimed in joy, "It's Zimo. Zimo has established his Tao heart." At the same time, a black-robed cultivator broke open the cave abode and stood in midair with a blood-colored saber in his hands. He looked into the distance with a moved expression and murmured softly, Araki Takashi, Zimo, are you going to establish the Wu Dao?" Previously, when Ming Zhen obtained the inheritance of Xitigarbha, it caused an uproar in Tianhuang mainland as well. However, that voice was extremely soft and only sounded once. Apart from cultivators, no one noticed it. But this time round, Araki Takashi's establishment of a Tao shocked the entire world. The 9 immortal sects, 8 demon races, 7 fiend sects, 6 Buddhist monasteries, 5 heretical doctrines, 4 unorthodox groups and countless aristocratic families were shocked. Many experts in seclusion were alarmed and came out of seclusion one after another. Chapter 1019. Who is it? Who's establishing a Tao? Araki Takashi is establishing a Tao and imparting martial arts to all living beings. How bold! This is a commotion that can only be caused by establishing a perfect Tao heart and obtaining the recognition of many ancient mighty figures. A huge change is about to happen to the entire cultivation world. At that moment, countless experts of the sects appeared and lamented. Glass Palace. A middle-aged man in 7-colored Taoist robes looked in the direction of the middle continent with a dark expression and endless rage in his eyes. Even the void around him was trembling. This was the power of the conjoint body realm that could shake the void. The surrounding cultivators, even the Dharma Dao Jun, were silent out of fear, afraid that they would disturb the Glass Palace patriarch before them. Ever since Dao Being Glass died in the Dao inheritance ground a day ago, the entire Glass Palace had fallen into an oppressive atmosphere. A titular disciple being killed by a Jining Jinjuan was something that had never happened in history. Titular disciples were the face of the super sects and possessed terrifying combat strength. It was rare for them to die prematurely. Titular disciples were almost invincible within the same cultivation realm. Even if a victor could be determined in a clash between titular disciples, it would be way too difficult to determine life and death. As for cultivators with higher cultivation realms, they were wary of the super sects behind titular disciples and did not dare to attack them. Therefore, it was difficult for titular disciples to die. But now, an anomaly had appeared in the cultivation world, a monster incarnate. In the Dao inheritance ground, he killed Dao Being Glass with his nascent soul cultivation and did not leave Glass Palace with any dignity. Dao Being Glass was the personal disciple that the Patriarch of Glass Palace valued the most. Su Zimo isn't dead yet. The Patriarch of Glass Palace's voice was cold and bone-chilling. Patriarch, the news just came from the Dao inheritance ground. This Araki Takashi should be Su Zimo's Taoist name. A Dharma Dao Jun said in a deep voice. The Patriarch of Glass Palace was truly enraged as he grit his teeth. If that lad manages to escape the Dao inheritance ground alive, gather the mighty figures of the sect and follow me to the middle continent to kill 100 Refinement sect. I want to see if extreme fire can stop me or not. Not bad. Another conjoint body mighty figure nodded. This lad is way too monstrous and has already incurred a huge feud with us. We can't let him continue growing and have to kill him. At all costs. Patriarch, don't worry. Even if this child establishes his Tao, it will be useless. A Tao Lord said, don't forget that there are still titular disciples like Di'in in the Tao inheritance ground. This lad won't be able to escape even if he has wings. At the same time, within Poison Sect, an old man with yellow cheeks sat beneath a huge venomous python. He held a jade-green staff in his hand. Sect Master, we've just received news that Su Zimo is not dead yet. He escaped into the Three Tribulations domain and has already established his Tao heart, causing the world to tremble. A cultivator arrived before the old man and knelt on the ground, saying in a deep voice. The expression of Poison Sect's sect master turned cold and he said with a sinister gaze, that lad isn't dead yet? Let's see how long more he can live. Chaos Essence Sect. Many conjoint body mighty figures were jolted awake by the voice in the firmaments and walked out of their cave abodes. Lin Song, come here. At this moment, a dignified voice suddenly sounded in the Hunyuan sect. Lin Song was the Tao name of Chaos Essence Sect's patriarch. There were not many people in the sect who would dare to order a sect master as such. Soon, a middle-aged Taoist descended in front of an ancient cave abode and bowed respectfully. The existence in the cave abode was the Grand Elder of the sect. His name was Di Fan and his cultivation had already broken through the conjoint body realm to reach the half-martial ancestor realm. It was extremely difficult to break through from the conjoint body realm to the Mahayana realm. Although there were many conjoint body mighty figures in the ancient era when the human race rose to prominence, there were extremely few Mahayana patriarchs. Above the conjoint body realm and below the Mahayana realm, there was another minor realm, the half-martial ancestor realm, also known as the half-step Mahayana realm. Although one could not break through to the true Mahayana realm after cultivating to this realm, one was qualified to be called an ancestor. That was the origin of half-martial ancestors. Although they were only half-martial ancestors, their combat strength was enough to suppress all conjoint body mighty figures. In Tianhuang mainland, Mahayana patriarchs had broad horizons and pursued the great Tao wholeheartedly. They had long broken free from the restraints of the sect and rarely appeared. Mahayana patriarchs might only appear if the sect was in danger of destruction. This meant that half-martial ancestors were almost the strongest existences in Tianhuang mainland. In order to advance further, half-martial ancestors would enter seclusion all year round. If not for the fact that Araki Takashi had established his Tao and shocked the world this time round, Di Fan would not have awakened from his seclusion. Chaos Essence Sect's patriarch whispered, "Elder D, even you were alarmed?" "Yes, in the cave abode, a pair of eyes opened slowly and shone with a divine light. It was like a bolt of lightning that tore through the night sky and could not be looked at directly." "What's going on?" Di Fan asked slowly. Chaos Essence Sect's patriarch hurriedly explained the situation of the Tao inheritance ground in detail. "It's him." Di Fan frowned slightly. Di-in was his grandchild. One of the reasons why Di-in was so famous in the cultivation world was because of the half-martial ancestor backing him. 100 years ago, Di-in suffered a crushing defeat in Myriad Phenomenon City. His protection dermic weapon shattered and he was nearly killed. He had heard about it and was enraged because of it. However, there was no news of Su Zimo later on and the matter was left unsettled. Di Fan asked, "Are you sure that lad is at the nascent soul realm?" "I'm sure." That lad had just broken through to the perfected nascent soul realm at the Thousand Crane Tea Party a month ago, Chaos Essence Sect's patriarch replied. "Yes, there's nothing to worry about then," Di Fan said indifferently. Di-in is already at the void reversion realm. No matter how monstrous he is, he won't be a match for Di-in. He won't have the chance to break through in the Tao inheritance ground either, Chaos Essence Sect's patriarch added. Di Fan said in a deep voice, "All right, you can leave. I'm going to continue my seclusion. Don't disturb me unless something major happens." Chaos Essence Sect's patriarch bowed and retreated. Tao inheritance ground. Di-in had just left the Three Tribulations domain and had yet to catch his breath when he heard a deafening sound. Araki Takashi had established a Tao and imparted martial arts to all living beings. Di-in turned around suddenly and focused his gaze. The cultivators of the Tao inheritance ground were shocked as they widened their eyes and looked over. Could it be, Su Zimo actually cleared the Three Tribulations domain? The number one in history. Who can compare to such a Tao heart? The crowd rumbled and the cultivators were shocked. Right then, a bedazzling light burst forth from the end of the Three Tribulations domain. A sword came from the west and tore through the void. A spear stood tall and shattered the world. There was an indomitable figure with an immortal aura. He held a horsetail whisk in his hand and looked like a peerless immortal king with a domineering aura. A gigantic Buddha descended with a golden light that shone endlessly and Sanskrit reverberated endlessly. There were also fiend neonate shrieks that were shuddering. One after another, legacy phenomenons that caused one's heart to shudder burst forth at the end of the Three Tribulations domain like volcanoes. There were dozens of them. The entire space of the Tao inheritance ground trembled. Ah, this is, the Tao heart that Su Zimo established was actually acknowledged by all the ancient mighty figures. This meant that there were dozens of ancient inheritances inside that Su Zimo could choose from. Chapter 1020. Tao Being Heavenly Dipper and the other titular disciples had terrible expressions when they heard the discussions around them. So far, they could be considered to have suffered a crushing defeat. Everyone joined forces to set up traps to kill Su Zimo, but he managed to escape. That was embarrassing enough. Later on, Su Zimo barged into the Three Tribulations domain. They were indignant and wanted to follow in to split the treasures on Su Zimo. In the end, they retreated dejectedly with disgrace. But now, not only had Su Zimo cleared the Three Tribulations domain, he had even obtained the recognition of many ancient mighty figures. They were defeated again and again. Dao Being Heavenly Dipper and the other titular disciples could vaguely sense that the situation was out of their control. After a moment of silence, Dao Being Malevolent Earth suddenly sneered, "So what if you obtain the recognition of many ancient mighty figures? Don't forget, you can only choose one inheritance here." "That's right," Dao Being Zephyr Thunder nodded as well. Generally speaking, cultivators who could obtain inheritances in the Dao inheritance ground would not obtain a second inheritance. The conjoint body mighty figures who could leave behind inheritances here were all prideful experts who once dominated an area. Naturally, they hoped that the successor they chose could cultivate their legacy Dao techniques wholeheartedly and reach the peak. If everyone could obtain 2 or 3 inheritances or more, the inheritances here would have been snatched away by the paragons of the past long ago. "Everyone, don't worry," Dao Being Heavenly Dipper smiled gently. "Even if Su Zimo obtains the inheritance, it won't help. This is the Dao inheritance ground and there's no way to comprehend the outside world. The spirit chi is thin and even if he stays here for 100 years, he won't be able to cultivate or break through. After cultivating to the nascent soul realm, each breakthrough required one's essence spirit to comprehend the world. This place was a space of its own and was isolated from the outside world. It was a fool's dream to break through here. Furthermore, after obtaining the inheritance, it did not mean that cultivators could comprehend it instantly. In this world, there was no such thing as a free lunch. Cultivators had to comprehend, cultivate and experience the inheritances left behind by ancient mighty figures themselves before they could comprehend the essence and profoundness within. However, that was impossible in the Dao inheritance ground that was a space of its own. Monk Formless and the others nodded. Dao Being Heavenly Dipper shrugged with a relaxed expression. Therefore, he still has to come out eventually. Otherwise, he won't be able to do anything if he stays inside. Dao Being Malevolent Earth sneered, "We'll just guard the vicinity. In the end, he'll definitely be the one who can't take it." "Not bad." Daoist Zephyr Thunder said, "This person will lose no matter what. He is at the nascent soul realm and has a lifespan of 1,000 years. We have a lifespan of 5,000 years. At worst, we'll just exhaust him until he dies." The cultivators nearby were all shocked. For the sake of Su Zimo, these titular disciples did not hesitate to spend 1,000 years here. Of course, this was just a casual remark made in a fit of anger. No one could afford to waste 1,000 years. Dean looked at the Three Tribulations domain and pondered for a long time. He seemed to have thought of something and killing intent flashed in his eyes as he disappeared from the spot. Just now, if not for Lin Xuanji, he would have killed Su Zimo long ago. None of this would have happened. Dean planned to make a move and kill all the changes in the Dao inheritance ground. When Su Zimo appeared again, he would not allow any accidents to happen. In the Three Tribulations domain, Su Zimo finished his final sentence. When he took another step forward, he felt his vision brighten up. He had already walked out of the range of the Thunder domain. The end of the Three Tribulations domain was not big and was like a small cemetery. There were all sorts of lifelike stone statues inside. Some of them wielded all sorts of gigantic weapons and were filled with killing intent. There were also gigantic tombstones at the feet of some of the stone statues. At that moment, the stone statues emitted a mysterious light that shone on Su Zimo's battered body. Initially, his body was already in a tragic state after the baptism of the wind and fire tribulations. His flesh was shriveled and his skin was dull like a withered corpse. Many parts of this body were already revealing eerie white bones. Although Su Zimo's Tao heart was condensed and unshakable, his body had truly reached its limits. His life force was weak and his organs were withered. However, at that moment, after his body was tainted by the light, his initially shriveled flesh suddenly shone with endless life force and gradually became nourished. The wounds on his internal organs were also healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Flesh and blood were reborn on his bones. This withered body was once again filled with vitality and vigor. This was a godly method that could revive the dead and regrow flesh and bones. After one's cultivation realm reached the conjoint body realm, they could regrow limbs. The light was clearly left behind by many ancient mighty figures. Initially, a single ray of light from a stone statue was enough to heal Su Zimo. But now, dozens of rays of light shone down on him, restoring his body to its original state in just a few breaths' time. A massive amount of life essence circulated within his body, nourishing every single inch of his flesh. His skin shone with a crystalline luster that was tender and fair. This was almost equivalent to a form of rebirth. After experiencing the baptism of the wind and fire tribulations, the Yin wind scraped his bones and the tempering of the karmic fire, his body became even stronger and more terrifying. Even Su Zimo's black-haired essence spirit's wounds were gradually healing under the shroud of the afterglow. It was way too difficult to heal essence spirit injuries, let alone heal completely. But now, with the help of the afterglow of dozens of ancient mighty figures, his essence spirit had recovered and the power of his essence spirit had increased exponentially. Unfortunately, the wounds on the scarlet-haired Yin spirit did not change. The moment the afterglow touched the scarlet-haired Yin spirit, they avoided it as though they sensed the aura of the dragons on it. Su Zimo could understand. This was the sacred ground of the human race after all, they would naturally not help the scarlet-haired Yin spirit with surging demonic qi. Dozens of legacy phenomenons shone in the void. Suddenly, a mysterious feeling rose in Su Zimo's heart. If he wanted to, he could definitely inherit the legacy of an ancient mighty figure. He could inherit all of the dozens of legacies here. The feeling intensified. Could this be the reward for clearing the three tribulations domain? Su Zimo murmured softly. He arrived beside a stone statue and touched it gently with his palm. Immediately, countless inheritance information surged into his body. He released his palm and walked to the side of another stone statue. When he reached out to touch it, the stone statue did not resist and endless inheritance information surged into his mind. Su Zimo released his palm with a shocked expression. It was not an illusion. He could inherit all the legacies here. Looking at the dozens of stone statues of ancient mighty figures in front of him and standing still for a long time, Su Zimo's eyes lit up. He understood. The reason why he could inherit the legacies of dozens of ancient mighty figures was not because he passed the test of the three tribulations domain, but because of his Tao heart. He wanted to establish Wu Dao and impart martial arts to all living beings. Therefore, the remnant consciousnesses of the ancient mighty figures sensed his Tao heart and wanted to help him fulfill his grand wish. Even though they had fallen through the ages and were only remnant consciousnesses that could die at any moment, they were still concerned about the masses. At that moment, the dozens of ancient mighty figures were selfless and held nothing back. Su Zimo was touched and bowed deeply. Thank you for your kindness, seniors. I, Su Zimo, will definitely not betray your trust and Tao hearts. Chapter 1021. Su Zimo did a rough count, there were 32 inheritance stone statues here. He did not have much time. The life preservation elixir that Solitary Cloud consumed could only last for a month at most. He had to leave this place before a month. In other words, although there were many inheritances here, he had to find a suitable inheritance that could raise his combat strength for a short period of time. Solitary Cloud was severely injured and only had a single breath left. He had to kill his way out and make all the titular disciples outside pay with their lives. He walked and stopped beside the stone statues, looking at the words left behind by them. Arriving before a stone statue, Su Zimo paused in his tracks and frowned slightly. The flow of time here was abnormal. If it was anyone else, they might not be able to sense it. However, Su Zimo had cultivated the demonic art, Baron, before. To a certain extent, Baron was a form of control over time. Therefore, he was extremely sensitive to the flow of time. Su Zimo swept his gaze across and landed on a green stone beneath his feet. Wiping away the dust on it, he revealed a few lines of words. My Tao title is instant and I advanced to the half-step Mahayana realm. I have gained a basic understanding of divine powers. However, my essence spirit was injured in a huge battle and I stopped at the half-martial ancestor realm. Within this 5 feet radius, I used the power of my divine powers to change time. A day outside is equivalent to a year here. When he heard that, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. The meaning of this sentence was that if one cultivated for a year within this 5 feet area, only 1 day would pass outside. If he could stay here for about 20 days, it meant that he could cultivate within this 5 feet radius for 20 years. This was way too important for Su Zimo. He had just advanced to the perfected nascent soul realm. No matter how he cultivated or what inheritance he obtained, it was impossible for him to advance to the void reversion realm in 20 days. However, if he could cultivate here for 20 years, that impossibility would become possible. Su Zimo's eyes shone brightly as he gradually retreated from the area and continued to look at the inheritance stone statues. Arriving before a stone statue of a mighty figure of the fiend's sex, he paused and looked at the words below. I am half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky. I once roamed Tianhuang mainland and was invincible below the Mahayana realm. Another half-martial ancestor expert. Half-martial ancestor realm experts were only half a step away from reaching the Mahayana realm and becoming a progenitor. Every single one of them had countless dazzling achievements and fame in the past. I left behind a supreme secret scripture of the Devil sect, the Tao Heart Devil Seed Scripture. The stronger a cultivator's Tao heart is, the more powerful this cultivation technique will be. I hope that those who do not have a firm Tao heart will avoid cultivating this technique. Seeing this, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. This cultivation method was very suitable for his current situation. First of all, after stepping into the nascent soul realm, he had the top-notch spirit refinement cultivation technique of the immortal and Buddhist Taoists, but he had never had the Devil sect spirit refinement cultivation technique. If he could add in the spirit refinement technique of the fiend's sex, his essence spirit would be even more condensed and powerful. Qinglian's growth would also be accelerated. Secondly, and most importantly, according to what this half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky had said, the stronger one's Tao heart was, the greater the benefits of this supreme secret manual of the fiend's sex. Su Zimo believed that no one could be stronger than his Tao heart. If he cultivated this cultivation technique, his Tao heart would not be shaken even if he was invaded by any evil fiends. At this moment, the eyes of the stone statue suddenly glowed with a strange light. Su Zimo looked over instinctively. Their gazes met and Su Zimo shuddered. Those eyes were pitch black and cold, emitting a mysterious power. It was like a deep vortex that could suck his soul in. A sinister and evil power surged into his mind through his eyes. Is this what it means to receive an inheritance? It's kind of like the legendary enlightenment. A series of thoughts flashed through Su Zimo's mind. Soon, strands of black gas began to appear on his black hair and origin soul. More and more black gas began to condense in his sea of consciousness. Suddenly, Su Zimo felt that something was amiss. Although he had not received the inheritance of a mighty figure of this place, the situation before him clearly had nothing to do with the inheritance of a Tao technique. Right from the beginning, he had not obtained any information about the Tao Heart Fiend Seed Sutra. Instead, there were streams of sinister and evil fiend qi in his consciousness. Most importantly, his spirit perception was warning him repeatedly. Su Zimo wanted to retreat and sever his connection with the fiend's sect stone statue. However, he realized that unknowingly, his body was no longer under his control. What a perfect Tao heart! At that instant, a sigh suddenly echoed in his divine sense. It was filled with endless vicissitudes. Oh! This body is so perfect as well. The ancient voice sounded once more with joy and laughter. The heavens are truly on my side, ha 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 ha. An inexplicable fear rose in Su Zimo's heart and he felt chills all over his body. He finally realized what he was experiencing. Possession. Hakka Dojin had once reminded him to be careful of being possessed. After all, his body was way too terrifying and anyone who saw it would be tempted. At that time, Su Zimo did not think much of it. To think that he would really encounter such a situation. Furthermore, it was in the Tao inheritance ground. He was completely unprepared. However, how was that possible? The inheritance left here had been here for countless years and even Mahayana patriarchs had passed away long ago. How could someone still be alive? As though it could see through Su Zimo's confusion, the voice sounded once more with a faint smile. I'm Imperial Sky and I've long died. However, my Tao technique did not dissipate and remained here. Right now, I'm merely borrowing your Tao heart to be reborn and live another lifetime. Su Zimo's heart trembled. Another lifetime with the help of his Tao heart. The fiend planted in the Tao Heart Fiend Seed Sutra was none other than a fallen expert of the fiend's sex, half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky. You don't have to doubt it. The Tao Heart Fiend Seed Sutra does exist. In Su Zimo's consciousness, the black chi was endless and gradually condensed into a human figure. However, its appearance was unclear. Half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky continued, unfortunately, you won't have the chance to cultivate it anymore. However, don't worry, after I devour your essence spirit, I'll help you complete the rest of your cultivation path. In that short period of time, half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky's essence spirit had already condensed completely. His features were clear and his eyes were pitch black, emitting a strange glint as he smiled at Su Zimo. That smile was like a devil that walked out of hell and sent chills down one's spine. Half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky's essence spirit strode towards Su Zimo. Su Zimo suppressed the fear in his heart and calmed down before long. Although your rebirth with the help of the Tao Heart Fiend Seed Sutra is indeed shocking, it's not without flaws. Su Zimo said coldly, Tao Heart Fiend Seed. My cultivation realm is at the nascent soul realm. Since you use my Tao heart to plant a fiend seed and rebirth an essence spirit, your essence spirit cultivation realm will definitely be at the nascent soul realm as well. Chapter 1022. You're very smart. Half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky did not hide his admiration for Su Zimo at all. It's already not bad that you were able to calm down so quickly and discover the secret of the Tao Heart Fiend Seed Sutra in front of me. If not for the fact that I had to rely on you to be reborn, I would have already taken in a disciple. Half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky did not stop in his tracks and sighed gently. Unfortunately, this is the cultivation world. If you want to cultivate the great Tao, you have to be cold and heartless. After devouring your essence spirit, I'll be able to advance to the void reversion realm very quickly. Although my cultivation realm is still lower than my previous life, it doesn't matter. After all, this body and Tao heart are perfect. I'll definitely make up for all the regrets of my previous life in this life. Half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky had just been reborn. Even with his temperament, he could not suppress his excitement and could not stop talking. Are you that confident? Su Zimo sneered, we're both at the nascent soul realm. If you want to devour me, I can devour you too. Although it was a huge danger right now, it might be an opportunity for Su Zimo. As long as he could devour the reborn essence spirit of half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky, he would have a chance of advancing to the void reversion realm as well. Fu, half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky chuckled. That's a good idea, but it's unrealistic. Although my reborn essence spirit is at the nascent soul realm, it's definitely not something your essence spirit can match. You'll know once you try. The black-haired essence spirit did not show any fear against half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky as it roared and lunged forward. The two essence spirits collided. Boom! His consciousness shook. The two figures separated. After a slight pause, they charged forward once more. The essence spirits collided continuously. Both of their essence spirits were at the same cultivation realm. Who could devour the other party would depend on whose essence spirit was more condensed and who could win in this essence spirit fight. After a series of clashes, half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky's heart skipped a beat. The black-haired essence spirit was much harder to deal with than he had imagined. He had once cultivated to the half-martial ancestor realm and stood at the peak of Tianhuang mainland. Now that he was reborn with the help of his Tao heart and reincarnated, his essence spirit was even more condensed. However, to think that his essence spirit could not gain any advantage against Su Zimo's black-haired essence spirit. His sea of consciousness had already been turned upside down by the two great essence spirits. None of them could retreat or yield. Half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky would definitely cherish this opportunity and would not give it up after enduring through the ages and being reborn. And who was Su Zimo? How could he allow himself to be possessed? Little doll, give up resisting. Suddenly, half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky's voice turned extremely bewitching, as though it could disturb the minds of cultivators. He said faintly, "Even if I possess your body, you won't die. Your memories, your thoughts, your everything, I will inherit them all. Actually, this is a different kind of rebirth for you. Give up, give up." Half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky's voice resounded in Su Zimo's ears. "What great wish do you want to fulfill? I can fulfill it for you. The path of cultivation is filled with hardships and dangers. Why not let me take your place?" Half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky was still using his bewitching voice to destroy Su Zimo's will. However, he had been dead for too long and had just been reborn, his mind was a little slow. Su Zimo was able to obtain the recognition of dozens of ancient mighty figures through the Three Tribulations domain. Who could destroy his will? Who could shake his Tao heart? "I'm sorry," Su Zimo's voice was calm and cold. "I'll complete my own path. Kill." With a single thought, Su Zimo spewed out green rays of light from the creation Qinglian that was initially floating not far away and slashed towards half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky's essence spirit. "Is that your trump card?" Half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky smiled and pointed to the skies. "Freeze." The moment he said that, the 45 Qinglian seeds that tore through the air froze in his consciousness motionlessly. Half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky smiled. "My essence spirit was reborn from your essence spirit with the help of your Tao heart. How can this dermic weapon injure me? What about me?" Half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky's smile suddenly vanished. Not far away, the black-haired essence spirit had a calm expression and merely looked at half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky coldly without saying anything. Furthermore, the voice came from behind him. Half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky suddenly felt a bone-chilling chill. He felt a sharp pain in his chest as an arm filled with dragon scales pierced through his chest and came out. "Ah!" Half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky shrieked. Behind him stood an essence spirit with shoulder-length scarlet hair. It had a cold expression and was covered in dragon scales. It was identical to Su Zimo. It was the scarlet-haired Een spirit. The scarlet-haired Een spirit was injured and was initially hiding in the bronze square tripod in the corner. Half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky did not notice it at all. However, at that moment, the scarlet-haired Een spirit suddenly attacked and launched a fatal attack on half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky. Even if half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky was an expert of the ancient era who was knowledgeable and had calculated everything, he would not have expected that there would be two essence spirits in Su Zimo's consciousness. He had no chance of winning this battle. In reality, If it was any other cultivator, half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky would have possessed them easily and been reborn. Anyone would be scared out of their wits if they saw such a shocking, bizarre, and terrifying soul-taking technique. Against an ancient half-martial ancestor expert, they would probably faint from fright, let alone resist. Unfortunately, half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky was way too unlucky. Throughout the long years, no one had been able to pass through the Three Tribulations domain. It was not easy for someone to enter, and it was even a monster incarnate like Su Zimo who had cultivated 2 essence spirits. The black-haired essence spirit had already lunged forward. Half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky's essence spirit was severely injured and could not defend at all. He could only widen his eyes and roar, "I'm indignant." Swoosh! Swoosh! The black-haired essence spirit reached out with both hands and grabbed the head of half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky's essence spirit, devouring the power of his essence spirit endlessly. This sort of possession did not only devour the power of the essence spirit, but also the memories of half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky. The memories of a half-martial ancestor expert were way too precious. Not only did they contain the true Tao Heart Fiend Seed Sutra, they also contained the insights of many fiend cultivation techniques. This meant that Su Zimo did not need to comprehend heaven and earth to break through to the void reversion realm. That was because the insights of half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky when he broke through to the void reversion realm and the process of comprehending heaven and earth were all in his memories. With the help of half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky's essence spirit, Su Zimo could break through to the void reversion realm even in the Tao inheritance ground where the spirit chi was thin and formed a space of its own. He was able to avert danger and see the light at the end of the tunnel. Before long, half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky's essence spirit dimmed and was devoured by Su Zimo. The black-haired essence spirit had an additional aura of the fiend's sex that was on par with the immortal and Buddhist sections. At that moment, Su Zimo felt his body lighten. Half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky was completely dead and Su Zimo had already regained control of his body. In a flash, he arrived in the area in front of half-martial ancestor Instant and sat down cross-legged to cultivate. Cultivating here for a year was only equivalent to a day outside. Su Zimo had to break through as soon as possible and charge out of the Three Tribulations domain so that he could kill all the titular disciples who surrounded him. Chapter 1023. Time passed by bit by bit. 1 day. 2 days. 10 days. 10 days had passed, but there were not many changes for the cultivators in the Tao inheritance ground. Tao being Heavenly Dipper, Tao being Zephyr Thunder, Monk Formless and Tao being Malevolent Earth were still guarding outside the Three Tribulations domain. They either sat quietly or pondered, there was no hint of impatience in their expressions. Although Tao being Hidden Death did not appear, everyone knew that he must be nearby. Apart from the 4 titular disciples, there were still a large number of cultivators gathered nearby from various major sects and factions. Everyone wanted to wait for an outcome. In the blink of an eye, 15 days passed. The number of cultivators outside the Three Tribulations domain did not decrease. At the end of the Three Tribulations domain, Su Zimo, who was sitting in front of half-martial ancestor Instant's stone statue, had already cultivated for 15 years. This day, he finally devoured and digested the essence spirit of half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky. The power of his essence spirit had already reached its peak. For the past 15 years, the insights of half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky when he broke through to the void reversion realm flowed through Su Zimo's heart again and again. He gradually sensed the opportunity for a breakthrough. The black-haired essence spirit was finally about to enter the void reversion realm after experiencing the baptism of the top cultivation techniques of the immortal, Buddhist and fiend sects. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in his consciousness. Sanskrit echoed through the world continuously. Behind the black-haired essence spirit, a gigantic Buddha body could be vaguely seen. Pitch-black fiend chi spewed out continuously from the black-haired essence spirit's body. It was cold and terrifying as it circled in midair, forming a divine weapon that resembled a scythe. The Purple Thunder Manual, Great Day Rulai Sutra and Tao Heart Fiend Seed Sutra were three top-tier cultivation techniques of the immortal, Buddhist and fiend sects that were continuously baptized and refined. The black-haired essence spirit became purer and its dregs gradually dissipated without a single drop left. His consciousness boiled. Su Zimo opened his eyes and roared into the skies with a divine light. Boom! A tremor sounded from his consciousness. The black hair of the black-haired essence spirit danced and the aura of its entire essence spirit rose continuously, bursting forth with endless light as its spirit consciousness expanded. It had broken through. Void reversion, void reversion. Su Zimo could clearly sense the strength of a void reversion's essence spirit. With just a wave of his divine sense and a wave of his hand, he could mobilize even more magic power. Under normal circumstances, the range of a return to void initial stage cultivator's divine sense could reach up to 100 miles. Even at the peak of the return to void initial stage, it could only reach up to 1,000 miles. And Su Zimo's present divine sense range already reached 1,000 miles. The three top cultivation techniques of the immortal, Buddhist, and fiend sects allowed his essence spirit to undergo another metamorphosis. The return to void stage was far too important to Su Zimo. Originally, when titular disciples unleashed their essence soul secret techniques, he could only use the Mingwang prayer beads, creation Qinglian beads, and other treasures to defend passively. After advancing to the void reversion realm, he would be able to release the essence spirit secret skills that he had cultivated in the past. Although he was only at early stage void reversion, his black-haired essence spirit had cultivated the immortal, Buddhist, and fiend cultivation techniques. The power of his essence spirit was definitely not weaker than that of any titular disciple. Now that he was at the void reversion realm, the power of all his dharmic arts would increase several times. Although only 15 days had passed, the changes in Su Zimo's body were too great. As his cultivation realm stabilized, his consciousness gradually calmed down as well. Su Zimo's gaze flickered and he pondered for a moment, not in a hurry to leave. He still had some time. Now that he had broken through to the void reversion realm, his combat strength had increased exponentially and it should not be a problem for him to deal with Dao Being Heavenly Dipper and the other titular disciples. However, he was still not confident against Diyin. Su Zimo intended to continue cultivating the many fiend techniques in the Tao Heart Fiend Seed Sutra. The more dharmic arts and secret skills he comprehended, the more confident he would be against Diyin. The fiend techniques in the Tao Heart Fiend Seed Sutra were all-encompassing and all the cultivation techniques of the 7 fiend sects were involved. There was an extremely strange essence soul secret skill in the Tao Heart Fiend Seed Sutra. The secret skill was known as the soul-searching art. It was not a pure offensive dharmic art. Instead, it was used to capture a cultivator's essence spirit alive and there was a chance of collecting the memories in the essence spirit. Of course, it was not certain how many memories could be collected. Furthermore, for essence spirits that had been subjected to the soul-searching art, even if they did not die, they would be reduced to idiots without any consciousness. There was also a visual technique known as the Heavenly Fiend Eye that was similar to the bewitching eye of pure maiden sect. If a cultivator was controlled by the power of that visual technique, they would not disobey even if they were asked to commit suicide. Of course, the offensive power of that visual technique was not strong and was far inferior compared to his illumination dragon eye. Su Zimo did not stand up and continued sitting. His essence spirit was still nurturing Qinglian and cultivating the many fiend techniques in the Tao Heart Fiend Seed Sutra at the same time. With the memories of half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky, Su Zimo was able to cultivate those fiend techniques with half the effort. In the blink of an eye. Another 5 days had passed in the outside world, but Su Zimo had cultivated for another 5 years. In the past 5 years, he had already cultivated more than half of the fiend techniques in the Tao Heart Fiend Seed Sutra and successfully cultivated the strongest dharmic art. Su Zimo stood up and was prepared to leave. Right then, he suddenly paused in his tracks and exclaimed softly. Another change occurred in his sea of consciousness. To be precise, the one that changed was the Qinglian of creation. Initially, the Qinglian of creation was at grade 5 and was merely a green lotus platform with 5 layers of gigantic petals. It was filled with chaos and shone with a multicolored glow. But now, the Qinglian of creation was undergoing another mutation. In the middle of the green lotus platform, a circle of tender petals grew once more. They were emerald green and bloomed slowly. Grade 6. That was the sign of the Qinglian of creation advancing to grade 6. However, that was not the end of the transformation. Beneath the Qinglian of creation, a green and slender lotus stem grew. It was as straight as jade and crystal clear with thin threads that resembled the meridians of a human body that could be seen clearly. On the stem of the lotus, a huge lotus leaf grew out. Su Zimo was delighted. He could vaguely sense that this was the final form of the Qinglian of creation. Although the Qinglian of creation was in his consciousness, the Qinglian of creation seemed to be connected to heaven and earth. The lotus stem was rooted in the consciousness, the lotus flower supported the firmaments and the lotus leaves covered the skies. The Qinglian swayed and the chaos dissipated, the entire consciousness was trembling. The grade 6 creation Qinglian was comparable to Khanate Dao Lord Dermic weapons. Su Zimo's eyes shone brightly as he strode out of the cemetery and headed out of the Three Tribulations domain. He could only return for the other inheritances here if he had the chance. There was not much time left for Solitary Cloud. There was no way he could exhaust Solitary Cloud to death in order to accept the inheritance here. When he stepped into the Three Tribulations domain again, the lightning pool above did not react to him at all. After passing through the desert, the karmic fire did not regenerate either. After clearing the Three Tribulations domain, he had already obtained its recognition and could travel through it at will. Outside the Three Tribulations domain, 20 days had passed and Dao being Heavenly Dipper and the other 3 titular disciples had yet to leave. The 4 of them were not the only ones, even the surrounding cultivators were waiting. Gradually, in the frost area, a figure faintly appeared and walked over. "Look, someone's coming out." A cultivator pointed at the Three Tribulations domain and shouted. Countless cultivators turned towards the voice. Dao being Zephyr Thunder's eyes lit up and flashed with lightning. He stood up slowly and sneered, "Fufu," as expected. "Su Zimo, you still couldn't help but come out yourself." Chapter 1024. The figure in the frost area was gradually becoming clearer. From the silhouette, it was undoubtedly Su Zimo. Dao being Malevolent Earth stood up with a mocking expression. Monk Formless woke up from his meditation as well. He touched his storage bag and the wooden fish and mallet were already in his hands. Dao being Heavenly Dipper smiled gently and sent a voice transmission secretly, "Everyone, we can't hold back this time round. We have to kill him with all our might lest anything happens." "That's right," Monk Formless nodded. What they were worried about was not anything else. They were mainly worried that Di'in would return and divide the treasures that originally belonged to them. Before long, Su Zimo stepped out of the Three Tribulations domain. Dao being Heavenly Dipper and the other 3 had already surrounded him with a murderous aura. Su Zimo surveyed his surroundings and his eyes lit up as he nodded. "Good, very good. Since all of you are here, I don't have to look for you one by one." Right then, Dao being Heavenly Dipper and the other 3 titular disciples gradually noticed something amiss. At first glance, Su Zimo was no different from before. However, the aura he exuded was much sharper than before. His aura was strong and his might was wanton. His gaze was terrifying and sharp like a blade that could not be looked at directly. Void Reversion Realm. Dao being Malevolent Earth's spirit consciousness swept across Su Zimo and his heart skipped a beat. Tao being Heavenly Dipper, Tao being Zephyr Thunder and Monk Formless swept their spirit consciousnesses across Su Zimo and were shocked as well, their eyes filled with disbelief. How was that possible? Su Zimo had just broken through to the perfected nascent soul realm at the Thousand Crane Tea Party. How could he break through to the void reversion realm in just 20 days? Furthermore, this was the Tao inheritance ground, a space of its own with thin spirit chi. If one could not even comprehend heaven and earth, how could he break through? Even if Tao being Heavenly Dipper and the other 3 titular disciples racked their brains, they would not be able to imagine what Su Zimo had experienced and obtained at the end of the 3 tribulations domain. Void reversion realm. He broke through. Heavens, what sort of opportunity did Su Zimo obtain inside? Cries of surprise came from the crowd. Instantly, Tao being Heavenly Dipper's 4 titular disciples felt immense pressure. The difference between the nascent soul realm and the void reversion realm was the difference between a major realm and the nascent soul realm. His battle prowess would definitely increase exponentially as well. Before this, Su Zimo did not have much power to fight back under their siege. Now that Su Zimo was at the void reversion realm, he definitely had the ability to threaten them. At this moment, in their hearts, even if Su Zimo had reached the return to void stage, he was still only at the return to void initial stage. There was no way he could win against the 4 of them. However, this battle would not be as easy as it had been in the beginning. If Su Zimo risked his life, it was very likely that he would drag one of them down with him. The 4 of them did not realize that Su Zimo did not want to kill 1 or 2 people. Instead, he wanted to bury all of them in the Tao inheritance ground. Su Zimo, your sky splitter is in my hands. Tao being Heavenly Dipper looked relaxed as he smiled gently. The mystic magnet mountain is in the hands of Tao being malevolent earth. What other treasures do you have? There's nothing more than the creation Qinglian left. Patron Su, if you return the creation Qinglian to the Buddhist sects, I can withdraw from this battle, Monk Formless said indifferently. Disciples of the Buddhist monasteries have always stood aloof from worldly affairs and are unwilling to fight with others. However, I can't bear to see this treasure of the Buddhist monasteries fall into the hands of fiend demons like you. His words were dignified and hypocritical to the extreme. This was almost a massacre, and yet, he was standing aloof from worldly affairs. Even the spectating cultivators were disgusted by the scene. If Su Zimo were to truly hand over the creation Qinglian, Monk Formless might withdraw from the battle. However, without the creation Qinglian, Su Zimo's combat strength would be greatly reduced and he would definitely be killed by Tao being Heavenly Dipper and the other 2. With that, Monk Formless would obtain the creation Qinglian and gain a good reputation. Monk Formless' thoughts could not be hidden from the many cultivators present. Fufufu, you want to create Qinglian? Su Zimo could not help but laugh. Looking at Monk Formless who was lowering his head, he retracted his smile and said coldly, "All right, I'll give it to you." The moment he said that, purple lightning flashed on his body and a pair of gigantic dermic power wings grew behind him. He transformed into a bolt of lightning and arrived before Monk Formless instantly. Against the 4 titular disciples, Su Zimo was fearless and attacked first. The moment Su Zimo moved, the 4 titular disciples reacted instantly. Another saber appeared in Tao being Heavenly Dipper's hands. It was Su Zimo's Heaven Splitter. Heaven Splitter was not Su Zimo's destiny dermic weapon and could be used at any time in Tao being Heavenly Dipper's hands. Dual sabers in hand. Stars surround the moon. Tao being Heavenly Dipper wielded 2 long sabers in each hand. Both were connate dermic weapons and slashed down behind Su Zimo. A gigantic starry sky appeared above the firmaments with countless stars shining brightly, as though they were right in front of him, scattering endless starlight. The stars appeared. The saber beams were biting cold, and under the endless starlight, they transformed into 2 bright full moons that tore through the void and descended. It was an extremely shocking scene. It was as though 2 full moons were descending from the firmaments and slashing towards Su Zimo. This was the wrath of the firmaments and was unstoppable. Howl! Tao being Zephyr Thunder gripped his hammer with both hands and spun his body, causing hurricanes to swirl around the hammer. The hurricanes circled around his body, forming a tornado that connected the heavens and the earth with a terrifying might as it swept towards Su Zimo. Wherever it passed, sand and rocks filled the air and mud churned, as though it could destroy all life. Tao being malevolent earth waved his bone spear and endless malevolent chi surged, forming a black malevolent fog that churned and rapidly transformed into a menacing head in midair. The black malevolent head opened its mouth and bit down viciously towards Su Zimo. The three titular disciples attacked at the same time. There was also a high chance that Tao being hidden death was nearby. Although he did not appear, he could deliver a fatal blow at any moment. The scene before them was extremely similar to the four of them surrounding Su Zimo 20 days ago. Furthermore, the attacks of Tao being Heavenly Dipper and the other two titular disciples were even more terrifying. It was clear that they had used their full strength. Suffocation. Even the surrounding cultivators felt their hearts skip a beat and they felt suffocated. Was this the power of titular disciples? Even the Dharma Dao Jun would not be able to last a single breath against such a siege. Monk Formless' expression was calm and he did not panic at all as he slammed the mallet in his hands down. Dong! The sound of a wooden fish echoed. The hearts of the surrounding cultivators skipped a beat. Many cultivators clutched their chests with pained expressions as they staggered into the distance. Even spectators had to risk their lives for a battle as such. If that was the case for the cultivators watching from afar, it was hard for everyone to imagine how Su Zimo would be affected. The most frightening thing was that the attacks of the three titular disciples were already crushing down. Unless Su Zimo could release combat strength and methods that could take on four of them single-handedly, he would definitely be severely injured. Kill! Su Zimo roared and thunderclap kill burst forth, negating the impact of the sound of the wooden fish. Bald monk, this is the creation Qinglian. I'm afraid you won't be able to handle it. Su Zimo hollered and his glabella shone. A green shadow appeared and a jade green, crystalline Qinglian appeared. Not only was there a lotus platform, there was also a lotus stem and lotus leaves. It was the complete form of the creation Qinglian. Chapter 1025. While others did not feel much when they saw the complete form of the creation Qinglian, Monk Formless was shocked. The fact that the creation Qinglian had grown to such a state meant that it had reached maturity. According to the ancient books of the Buddhist monasteries, the Qinglian had obtained 6 creations of heaven and earth and reached grade 6. Apart from a massive increase in strength, it would also gain many mysterious aspects upon entering maturity. Throughout history, the only creation Qinglian was the ancient Buddha emperor who relied on his wisdom, opportunities and perseverance to nurture a grade 8 Qinglian that was comparable to an emperor weapon. After that, not even a grade 7 Qinglian was nurtured. During this period of time, there were people who nurtured grade 6 Qinglian. However, the creation Qinglian required the nourishment of one's essence spirit. Because of the nurturing of the creation Qinglian, the cultivation of those cultivators progressed slowly. In the end, their lifespans were exhausted and they stopped at the Dharma characteristic realm. However, the cultivator before him was only 100 years old and yet, he had nurtured the creation Qinglian to grade 6. How terrifying! That thought flashed through Monk Formless' mind. It was not as if there had never been paragons who had cultivated to the void reversion realm at the age of 100 years old. However, to be able to nurture the creation Qinglian to grade 6 at the same time at the void reversion realm at the age of 100 years was way too terrifying. It was unimaginable. The void reversion realm had a lifespan of 5,000 years. A void reversion that was more than 100 years old was way too young. The young man before him had more than enough time to nurture the creation Qinglian and raise it by another grade or 2. At that time, the grade 7 or even grade 8 Qinglian would reappear in the world. The entire Tianhuang mainland would be shaken. At the thought of that, Monk Formless shuddered. This person must not be allowed to rise. He had to kill him here and snatch away the creation Qinglian. In a flash, thousands of thoughts flashed through Monk Formless' mind. However, his hands did not stop moving and his blood qi surged. Gripping the wooden fish in his left hand and the wooden mallet in his right, he smashed it towards Su Zimo. At that moment, Tao Being Heavenly Dipper's sabers were the first to descend. 2 cold full moons, shrouded in the starry sky, emitted a sharp killing intent and descended behind Su Zimo's head. Su Zimo didn't even turn his head. He clasped his 2 fingers together and formed a sword seal. Then, he gently slashed behind him. Chi! A dazzling sword light burst forth, overflowing with murderous intent. If the killing intent emitted by the 2 full moons was like a river, then the killing intent emitted by the sword energy was like a boundless ocean. When the heavens release their killing intent, the stars will be shifted. The stars in the sky were in a mess due to the murderous intent. They collided with one another and turned into rays of light falling from the sky. Without the support of the starlight, the 2 full moons were cut in half by the sword qi and instantly dissipated. The white sword qi had yet to dissipate and slashed towards Tao Being Heavenly Dipper. This sword qi again. Taoist Heavenly Dipper was alarmed. In the previous exchange, his Dharma spell had been shattered by the sword qi. Now that Su Zimo was at the void reversion realm, the power of the sword qi was clearly stronger. Tao Being Heavenly Dipper did not dare to be careless and hurriedly slashed out layers of saber intent, wanting to destroy the sword qi. With that, his attack against Su Zimo paused for a moment and he could not pose a true threat. After Su Zimo slashed out the heaven-slaying sword art, his hand seals changed once more and pitch-black fiend qi appeared in the air, chilling to the bone. The fiend qi looked even purer and more condensed than Tao Being Malevolent Earth's fiend qi. Tao Being Malevolent Earth was merely a titular disciple. How could his fiend technique compare to half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky? Although Su Zimo had cultivated the immortal and Buddhist cultivation techniques for more than 100 years, his dermic powers of the fiend Tao were the strongest right now. He had not only devoured the essence spirit of half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky, he had also inherited many of the latter's insights into the fiend Tao. The rumbling fiend qi condensed continuously in midair, transforming into a gigantic scythe that was pitch-black and cold. When the malevolent head that floated over saw the pitch-black scythe, its expression changed starkly. The other cultivators present could not recognize it. However, as the titular disciple of Malevolent Earth sect, he quickly recalled some legends in the sect. Heavenly Fiend Scythe. Tao Being Malevolent Earth's voice sounded from the malevolent head with a hint of fear. The Heavenly Fiend Scythe was the top dermic art of the ancient fiend Tao. It was extremely ferocious and specialized in reaping the lives of cultivators. Not many people of the same cultivation realm could defend against a single scythe. This dermic art had long been lost, to think that it would reappear now. The Heavenly Fiend Scythe was the strongest dermic art recorded in the Tao Heart Fiend Seed Sutra. Swoosh! The gigantic Heavenly Fiend Scythe was raised high and streaked through the air with a black shadow, slashing down viciously towards the incoming malevolent head. Wherever the gigantic scythe passed, life seemed to be sucked dry. The malevolent head collided with the Heavenly Fiend Scythe without causing a huge sound. Sizzle! Under countless gazes, the Heavenly Fiend Scythe split the gigantic head in midair and slashed down slowly. The malevolent head swayed and the fiend qi could dissipate at any moment. Shoo! The head opened its mouth and a sinister bone spear pierced out, striking the blade of the Heavenly Fiend Scythe heavily. Boom! There was a deafening sound. The malevolent head and Heavenly Fiend Scythe dissipated. Within the pitch-black fiend qi, a figure fell from midair. He looked wretched with blood flowing slowly from the corner of his mouth. It was a ghastly sight. He was injured. Tao Being Malevolent Earth was already injured after a single exchange. The crowd was in an uproar. To think that Su Zimo, who was at the void reversion realm, would be so terrifying that he could injure one of the titular disciples, Tao Being Malevolent Earth, with a single dermic art. Furthermore, this was under the premise that he was fighting 1 against 4. In reality, the Heavenly Fiend's scythe was equivalent to the lifetime comprehension of half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky and a move released by Su Zimo. How could Tao being malevolent Earth defend against it? If he had not reacted quickly and blocked with his destiny dermic weapon in time, he would have been severely injured by now. Ni. At the same time, Su Zimo chanted Sanskrit and conjured the immortal trap seal at the same time as he released the damning mantra. Now that he was at the void reversion realm, the power of that dermic art increased exponentially as well. In midair, a gigantic golden palm descended and suppressed Tao being Zephyr Thunder against the hurricanes. Compared to the Heavenly Fiend's scythe, the power of the immortal trap seal was much weaker. Although it could not injure Tao being Zephyr Thunder, it blocked his attack. The moment Su Zimo attacked, all sorts of dermic arts burst forth without holding back and blocked all 3 titular disciples. The attacks of the 3 titular disciples paused for a moment. To others, this momentary pause might not have been a big deal. However, it was enough for Su Zimo. In a fight between experts, a single moment was all that mattered. At that moment, Monk Formless and Su Zimo were fighting 1-on-1. It was only after Monk Formless made his move that he realized this point. However, it was too late. Chapter 1026. Monk Formless wanted to retreat but it was already too late. Su Zimo gripped the slender green lotus stem of the creation Qinglian and welcomed the incoming wooden fish and mallet. Boom! The 3 dermic weapons collided with a loud bang. The creation Qinglian shuddered gently and burst forth with a terrifying power, repelling Monk Formless' 2 dermic weapons instantly. Ah! Monk Formless cried out in pain and his palm was torn apart with blood gushing out. He could not hold on to the 2 dermic weapons and they flew out of his hands. Before he entered the nascent soul realm, Monk Formless was already not a match for Su Zimo in melee combat. In the 3 tribulations domain, Su Zimo's body had experienced the wind and fire tribulations. Coupled with the rebirth of his flesh with the afterglow of a mighty figure's dermic powers, his physique was even more terrifying. Furthermore, he was already at the void reversion realm and wielded the grade 6 creation Qinglian. There was no way Monk Formless could defend against him. If not for the fact that the 2 dermic weapons in Monk Formless' hands were precious treasures of Formless Monastery and were equivalent to the Mingwang prayer beads, both dermic weapons would have been destroyed by the creation Qinglian. Su Zimo gained the upper hand and was unforgiving. Bald monk, hand over your life. His gaze was burning as he hollered and strode forward. The creation Qinglian in his hands swayed gently and the lotus platform descended, smashing towards Monk Formless' head. Monk Formless' eyes shone with a ferocious glint. The benevolent expression he had just now was long gone. As a titular disciple, even if he was at a disadvantage for the time being, he was still fearless in the face of such danger. Monk Formless swiped his storage bag and summoned an ancient mirror to block above his head. Buzz! The ancient mirror shone brightly and expanded rapidly. It shone with 6 dermic patterns and shielded Monk Formless' figure beneath. That ancient mirror was also a Khanate Tao being dermic weapon. The surrounding cultivators all revealed looks of admiration. Although they had entered the Tao inheritance ground, most of the cultivators did not have Khanate dermic weapons. It was already not bad for them to have a perfect dermic weapon. Right now, Monk Formless had revealed a total of 3 Khanate dermic weapons. The strength of titular disciples was not only reflected in their combat strength, but also in their heritage, trump cards, and treasures. Therefore, generally speaking, it was very difficult for a titular disciple to be killed by someone of the same level. But now, a monster had appeared out of nowhere in the cultivation world and broke the situation. This person was decisive in killing and had no qualms. After entering the Tao inheritance ground, 2 titular disciples had already died in his hands. On the battlefield, Su Zimo's eyes flashed coldly when he saw Monk Formless summon the Khanate dermic weapon, the ancient mirror. With a thunderous voice, he hollered, shatter. Qinglian fell and smashed into the ancient mirror. Boom! A deafening boom rang out. Under the tremendous impact, Monk Formless' body shrank and his legs sank deep into the mud, covering his knees. Pooh! Monk Formless spat out a mouthful of blood with a pale face. This time, the bones in his body were about to fall apart. A series of creaking sounds could be heard, and his internal organs were shaking violently. At this moment, he heard a strange sound. Crack! 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 A series of exclamations sounded from the crowd and countless people gasped. Monk Formless raised his head and looked up. Cracks appeared on the ancient mirror in his hands and spread continuously. In the blink of an eye, the front of the ancient mirror was filled with cracks. It shattered. A Khanate Dao being Dharmic weapon could not withstand a single attack from the creation Qinglian and was shattered. The Grade 6 creation Qinglian could fight against Khanate Dao Lord Dharmic weapons. After shattering a Khanate Dao being Dharmic weapon, the creation Qinglian was unscathed and was still as green as ever. Looking at the shattered ancient mirror, Monk Formless could no longer maintain his composure and his expression changed in shock. Swoosh! The creation Qinglian swayed and smashed down once more. The spirit chi of the Qinglian was overwhelming and every single lotus leaf was crystal clear, like the most beautiful treasure in the world. However, when the lotus platform smashed down, it carried a destructive aura. The depths of Monk Formless' eyes were filled with fear. Even a Khanate Dharmic weapon was shattered by the lotus platform. His body was most likely going to be smashed into a bloody pulp under the suppression of the lotus platform. At that moment, his legs were deeply buried in the mud. It was already too late for him to get up from the ground and dodge. Since even Khanate Dao being Dharmic weapons could not defend against the might of the creation Qinglian, his other methods were useless as well. The only thing he could do was activate his essence spirit secret skill. Formless finger. Monk Formless roared and his glabella shone. An extremely terrifying spirit consciousness burst forth and condensed into a finger in midair, pointing towards Su Zimo's head. At the same time, Dao being Heavenly Dipper had just dispelled the heaven-slaying sword art. Dao being Malevolent Earth collided with the Heavenly Fiend Scythe and suffered quite a bit of shock. Dao being Zephyr Thunder had just destroyed the golden palm of the immortal trap seal. When the three titular disciples saw that, they did not hesitate and made the most correct reaction right away. The three of them wanted to move or conjure Dharmic arts to save Monk Formless, but it was too late. The only thing they could use was their essence spirit secret skills. Furthermore, 20 days ago, in the battle against Su Zimo, the three titular disciples had only released their essence spirit secret skills against Su Zimo and he was already severely injured and almost died. Right now, there were 4 of them. Including Dao being Hidden Death, there were 5 of them. There was no need for Dao being Heavenly Dipper to remind him. Dao being Hidden Death would definitely choose the most suitable opportunity to deal a fatal blow. Previously, Demoness Ji and Dao being Randang defended Su Zimo against the 2 titular disciples. But this time round, Su Zimo was the one fighting alone. Araki Takashi, die. Dao being Malevolent Earth roared and his spirit consciousness burst forth from his glabella, forming a sinister bone spear in midair that pierced towards Su Zimo. Spirit Shaker Art. Dao being Zephyr Thunder hollered. A thick and majestic spirit consciousness gathered in midair, forming a hammer of spirit consciousness. Lightning flashed and it smashed towards Su Zimo's head as well. After releasing the essence spirit secret skill, Dao being Zephyr Thunder lamented internally, if I can obtain the purple thunder manual and fuse it with his green thunder manual, I'll be able to cultivate an even more terrifying essence spirit secret skill. That's the true killing secret skill of the Thunder Emperor back then. At that thought, Dao being Zephyr Thunder's eyes burned. Rumble. Boom. A star formed from spirit consciousness burst forth from Dao being Heavenly Dipper's glabella. It was bedazzling and emitted a tremendous might that arrived instantly. The 4 titular disciples attacked at the same time and released their essence spirit secret skills. Such a terrifying spirit consciousness impact was earth-shaking. Even if the Dharma Dao Jun were to descend, he might be killed instantly. The entire void was distorted by the interweaving of the four spirit consciousnesses. The four of them believed that even if Su Zimo possessed the essence spirit dharmic weapon from before, he would not be able to defend against their essence spirit secret skills. At this moment, a strange fluctuation appeared in the void. A blurry figure appeared. Dao being hidden death. Dao being hidden death was in no hurry to attack. He wanted to wait for Su Zimo's essence spirit dharmic weapon to lose its effect before he released his essence spirit secret skill to deal a fatal blow. Chapter 1027. On the battlefield, the situation changed. Initially, many spectating cultivators were still guessing if Su Zimo could escape alive. But now, when the four titular disciples used their essence spirit secret skills, it still gave off a suffocating feeling on the verge of death. There were no tricks in a fight between essence spirits. Many cultivators believed that Su Zimo, who had just advanced to the void reversion realm, might be able to defend against the essence spirit secret skill of a titular disciple, but he would definitely not be able to defend against four of them. On the battlefield, Su Zimo had a calm expression when he sensed the spirit consciousness fluctuation behind him. In fact, there was not even a ripple in his eyes. All of a sudden, the azure lotus throne that was smashed down shook for a moment. Then, rays of azure light burst out from the lotus throne, bringing with them endless sharpness. Qinglian's son. After Qinglian of creation reached grade 6, the number of Qinglian's sons had reached 54. Swoosh! Swoosh! Su Zimo's mind stirred. The 54 Qinglian sons were divided into 4 groups and shot out. There were 13 in each group and the remaining 2 hovered around Su Zimo. Every single Qinglian sun sped through the air and the glow that wrapped around them vaguely revealed the form of a sword with a menacing sharpness. This was also a change brought about by Qinglian of creation's advancement to grade 6. The sharpness of the Qinglian suns solidified and the form of a sword would vaguely appear. The 13 green lotus seeds were like 13 long swords. They slashed towards the 4 divine senses that were surging towards them. Poof! 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 The 13 Qinglian suns collided repeatedly against the incoming formless finger, riddling the finger with holes. The light on the Qinglian suns dimmed and monk formless essence spirit secret skill was neutralized by the Qinglian suns as well. Clang! 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 The spirit consciousness bone spear behind him was silent. However, as though they had eyes, the Qinglian suns turned into swords and slashed against the bone spear. In the blink of an eye, the bone spear dissipated. The star broke through the sky, bringing with it a heavy pressure. The 13 seeds of Qinglian transformed into streaks of sword qi and struck the center of the divine sense star, directly piercing through it. The divine hammer condensed from Tao being Zephyr Thunder's spirit consciousness could not escape the same fate. It was struck by Qinglian and turned into nothingness. This was the Qinglian of creation. Seizing the fortune of heaven and earth, existing eternally. After entering the mature stage, it would be even more terrifying. Initially, when creation Qinglian was at rank 5, Su Zimo was still at nascent soul realm and could only defend passively against the essence spirit secret skills of titular disciples. But now, he could channel the creation Qinglian sun to fight head-on against the essence spirit secret skills of titular disciples. The 4 essence spirit secret skills were defended by the creation Qinglian. Tao being hidden death's figure had just appeared and hesitated for a moment before disappearing into the void once more. It was not that he did not want to attack, but that he did not have the chance. Initially, in his plan, it would be best if the essence spirit secret skills of the 4 titular disciples could kill Su Zimo. If not, they would definitely be able to shatter the barrier of Su Zimo's essence spirit dharmic weapon. He would then take advantage of the opening and succeed in a single strike. Dao being hidden death had not expected that Su Zimo did not use the Mingwang prayer beads to defend against the four essence spirit secret skills. Furthermore, there were two sharp Qinglian suns hovering beside Su Zimo. If Dao being hidden death attacked, apart from exposing himself, he would not pose any threat to Su Zimo. Although he was indignant, he still hid it. As an assassin of hidden death sect, he had to be patient. As long as he was willing to wait patiently, there would definitely be a perfect opportunity to strike. However, the fact that the four essence spirit secret skills were useless merely shocked Dao being Heavenly Dipper, Dao being Zephyr Thunder and Dao being Malevolent Earth. However, for Monk Formless, his face was ashen and his heart sank instantly. Although the fight between essence spirits seemed slow, it happened in an instant. Throughout the entire process, Su Zimo was not affected at all. The Green Lotus platform was still the same as it smashed down on Monk Formless' head. This time round, no one could save him. Formless Dermic Seal. Monk Formless made his final gamble and roared. Closing his hands, he conjured a gigantic Dermic Seal at his fastest speed and collided with the creation Qinglian. Poof! There was no pause. The Dermic Seal was destroyed instantly. Flesh and blood splattered as Monk Formless' hands were shattered by the Green Lotus platform. The Qinglian took advantage of the momentum and smashed onto Monk Formless' head. There was a loud thud. Like a watermelon shattering, Monk Formless' head was smashed by the Qinglian and his brains splattered all over the ground. However, the Green Lotus platform was not stained at all. Swash! Before the Green Lotus platform landed on his head, a glowing figure flew out from behind Monk Formless' head. His essence spirit had left his body. As a titular disciple who had cultivated for more than 2,000 years, Monk Formless' body was naturally extremely precious and he would not give it up unless he had no other choice. However, losing his body was better than having his essence spirit destroyed. As long as his essence spirit was still around, he could continue cultivating whether he wanted to possess someone or purchase a Dao being's body upon returning to the sect. Of course, it was probably impossible for him to recover his former combat strength. His title as a titular disciple would definitely be replaced by the sect as well. At the thought of that, he felt a sense of resentment towards Su Zimo once more. You caused my body to be destroyed and I lost my title. One day, I'll definitely repay this grudge. Monk Formless thought to himself. At that moment, he still did not realize that Su Zimo would not let him leave alive. The moment his essence spirit left his body, the two Qinglian seeds that were initially revolving around Su Zimo flew out and transformed into two rays of sword chi that shot towards Monk Formless' essence spirit. A ray of light blocked the path ahead. A ray of light chased after him from behind. Before Monk Formless could escape far, he sensed a sharp edge piercing towards him. A sharp pain came from his essence spirit and he could not help but tremble. Su Zimo, what are you trying to do? Seeing that he could not escape, Monk Formless was anxious and could not help but shout fiercely, I'm a titular disciple of Formless Monastery. Are you really going to kill me? Even the monks of Formless Monastery and titular disciples could not maintain their composure in the face of death. I'm going to kill titular disciples like you. Su Zimo's voice was cold and heartless without any hesitation. Poof! Poof! The two Qinglian seeds penetrated Monk Formless' essence spirit and an endless sharpness surged into it, mincing it into pieces. His essence spirit was destroyed. The titular disciple of Formless Monastery died in the Dao inheritance ground. Seeing this scene, the surrounding cultivators all felt a chill run down their spines. Looking at the green figure on the battlefield, everyone felt as though they were looking at a god of death that had walked out of hell. Right now, 3 titular disciples had already died in the hands of Su Zimo in the Dao inheritance ground. Some cultivators gradually realized. When Su Zimo walked out of the 3 tribulations domain once more, it was not to escape but to kill. To kill a titular disciple. Chapter 1028. Monk Formless was dead. There was a momentary pause on the battlefield. The three titular disciples stood opposite Su Zimo, none of them acted rashly. Tao being Heavenly Dipper and the other two had conflicted expressions. Four titular disciples surrounded a Tao being who had just entered the void reversion realm, but one of them was killed instead. Looking at Su Zimo's back view and the shattered corpse of Monk Formless at his feet, the three of them felt the urge to retreat for the first time. However, they could not retreat. The three of them were titular disciples after all and had to uphold the dignity of their sections. The outcome of this battle had yet to be decided. If they chose to flee separately, their sects would most likely become the laughing stock of the entire cultivation world. Furthermore, in their opinion, even though Su Zimo managed to defend against that earlier fight and even killed Monk Formless, he was still alive. He was almost done with his trump cards. After all, he had just entered the void reversion realm. How long could he last? How much dermic powers did he have left after releasing so many powerful dermic arts? Most importantly, they believed that with such a huge commotion, Diin would definitely rush over. As long as Diin arrived, Su Zimo would definitely die. Unfortunately, Tao being Heavenly Dipper and the other two did not know that at that moment, Diin's attention was completely focused on Lin Xuanji. The two of them spent 20 days in the Tao inheritance ground, one fleeing while the other chased. Although Lin Xuanji could not defeat Diin head-on, he had many miscellaneous methods and it was extremely difficult for Diin to kill him. In the past 20 days, there were a few times when Diin had already caught up to Lin Xuanji. However, the latter used many mysterious methods to escape. Outside the Three Tribulations domain, the wind howled and blood chi filled the air. After killing Monk Formless, Su Zimo turned around slowly and looked at Tao being Heavenly Dipper, Tao being Zephyr Thunder and Tao being Malevolent Earth with a cold gaze. For some reason, the three of them felt an inexplicable pressure when they met Su Zimo's gaze. They were titular disciples. How could someone of the same cultivation realm make them feel pressured with a gaze? Su Zimo moved. He slowly walked towards the three of them. His pace was neither fast nor slow. Just by walking over, the three of them could feel a suffocating pressure looming over them. It was as if a huge shadow had appeared above their heads. I have some grudges with Heavenly Dipper sect and Zephyr Thunder Palace. It's normal for their titular disciples to come and kill me. Su Zimo turned to look at Tao being Malevolent Earth and asked indifferently, what is Malevolent Earth sect here for? You are a demon. Everyone has the right to kill you. Taoist Malevolent Earth said coldly. Oh. Su Zimo nodded, and said, very good. You can die now. The moment he said that, Su Zimo moved and charged towards Tao being Malevolent Earth with the creation Qinglian in hand. Tao being Malevolent Earth's expression turned cold and he reacted quickly, taking out the Mystic Magnet Mountain from his storage bag. The Mystic Magnet Mountain was one of the ancient unique treasures. Although it had no effect on Qinglian of Creation, it was impossible for Qinglian of Creation to shatter the Mystic Magnet Mountain. Kill! Tao being Zephyr Thunder and Tao being Heavenly Dipper attacked at the same time. There was no way they would let Tao being Malevolent Earth die. If Tao being Malevolent Earth died and the two of them were the only ones left, even Tao being Hidden Death would be doomed. Boom! Tao being Malevolent Earth tossed out the Mystic Magnet Mountain. The Malevolent Earth blood on the Mystic Magnet Mountain had long been washed away. It expanded with the wind and rapidly transformed into a tall mountain peak that blocked in front of Tao being Malevolent Earth. Tao being Malevolent Earth sneered internally. No matter how strong the creation Qinglian was, there was no way she could shatter an ancient unique treasure. Ruli Dermic Seal. Right then, Tao being Malevolent Earth who was hiding behind the Mystic Magnet Mountain heard a voice. Su Zimo chanted Sanskrit and the void trembled. Golden light shone on his glabella as a sacred and massive spirit consciousness condensed rapidly, forming a golden swastika symbol. The appearance of the ancient symbol seemed as though it could freeze and suppress the void. A sacred aura filled the air. Against that aura, Tao being malevolent Earth's essence spirit in his consciousness shuddered and wanted to kneel down and submit. Essence spirit secret skill. Tao being Zephyr Thunder and Tao being Heavenly Dipper could not help but exclaim with widened eyes when they saw the golden symbol. They had not expected that Su Zimo would be able to use Essence Spirit secret skills the moment he advanced to the Void Reversion realm. Furthermore, the might of the Essence Spirit secret skill caused their hearts to skip a beat. Ruleidermic Seal. The Essence Spirit secret skills of the Great Day Rulai Sutra were extremely powerful. Normally speaking, one could only release them with an Essence Spirit at the Dharma characteristic realm. Back in Thousand Demon Valley, Su Zimo had attempted to release it once against the pursuit of the Overlord of Levitating Goat Peak. If not for the fact that Haka Dojin had attacked in time and injected the power of his Essence Spirit to condense the Ruleidermic Seal, he would have died in Thousand Demon Valley. The might of the Ruleidermic Seal released was indeed terrifying. Even an overlord was killed by that tiny golden symbol. This time round, Su Zimo had advanced to the Void Reversion realm and his black-haired Essence Spirit was aided by the top 3 immortal, Buddhist and fiend cultivation techniques. His spirit consciousness could extend for 500 kilometers and was almost comparable to a Dharma characteristic Essence Spirit. Therefore, he attempted the Ruleidermic Seal once more. However, he had still underestimated the requirements of the Ruleidermic Seal for his Essence Spirit. Although the golden symbol was successfully condensed, the black-haired Essence Spirit's light dimmed and the power of his Essence Spirit was almost sucked dry by the golden symbol. Su Zimo felt a wave of dizziness and his body swayed. It was way too scary. Su Zimo was secretly alarmed. The power of his Essence Spirit was still not enough. He could not use that Essence Spirit secret skill casually in the future. He could only attempt it if his cultivation realm increased by 1 or 2 levels and the power of his Essence Spirit increased exponentially. Malevolent Earth, watch out! Tao being Zephyr Thunder reminded hurriedly. In midair, the golden symbol shone brightly and charged towards the mystic magnet mountain. A dermic weapon like the mystic magnet mountain could not defend against Essence Spirit secret skills. In the blink of an eye, the golden symbol passed through the mystic magnet mountain and descended before Tao being Malevolent Earth. The golden symbol was advancing and the void was collapsing. The golden symbol carried an aura that could suppress and destroy everything as it collided. Tao being Malevolent Earth's pupils constricted violently. He clearly knew that this was an Essence Spirit secret skill with terrifying might. However, he had no way of defending against it. He had just released his Essence Spirit secret skill and could not condense it within a short period of time. In the blink of an eye, the golden symbol imprinted itself on Tao being Malevolent Earth's glabella and disappeared instantly. Tao being Malevolent Earth's body shuddered. The next moment, his gaze turned blank and lifeless. His expression froze and his life force drained rapidly as well. The surroundings were so silent that one could hear a pin drop. All the cultivators widened their eyes and opened their mouths slightly, looking at Tao being Malevolent Earth in horror. Thump! Under the gazes of countless people, Taoist Malevolent Earth fell straight to the ground. When Tao being Malevolent Earth laid on the ground, there were no injuries on his body. However, he was lifeless and his life force dissipated, he was no different from a corpse. Tao being Malevolent Earth's consciousness was calm and silent as well. His Essence Spirit had already been crushed into dust by the golden symbol and dissipated into his consciousness. His Essence Spirit was destroyed. The titular disciple of Malevolent Earth sect was killed by the Ruleidermic Seal and died. Chapter 1029. In the blink of an eye, 2 titular disciples, Monk Formless and Tao being Malevolent Earth, died. Outside the 3 tribulations domain, it was silent. Many spectating cultivators looked at Su Zimo in shock, as though they had seen a ghost. Nobody expected that Su Zimo would be so domineering after returning after just 20 days. The 4 titular disciples joined forces and Tao being Hidden Death was hiding nearby, waiting for an opportunity to strike. The outcome of this battle was the death of 2 titular disciples. The #1 monster incarnate of history had truly risen. That thought flashed through the minds of many cultivators at the same time. They were not the only ones. At that moment, Tao being Heavenly Dipper and Tao being Zephyr Thunder's eyes were filled with shock as well. This person's momentum is already established. Who can suppress him in this Tao inheritance ground? At that moment, both of them felt their hearts skip a beat. There were already 4 titular disciples who died in the hands of Su Zimo. Who could withstand the might of an invincible force created by the blood of a titular disciple? When a butcher killed too many dogs, an invisible aura would form around him. Any dog with a bit of intelligence would be able to sense it and would not dare to approach. Even the fiercest dog would have to flee with its tail between its legs if the butcher glared at it. However, Su Zimo was killing titular disciples right now. He was killing titular disciples like dogs. At the same time that he killed Tao being malevolent earth forcefully with his essence spirit secret skill, Su Zimo's essence spirit became extremely weak and he even felt dizzy. He stood rooted to the spot motionlessly. In reality, this was the only chance for Tao being Zephyr Thunder, Tao being Heavenly Dipper and Tao being Hidden Death to attack. Unfortunately, the 3 of them were stunned by the scene of Tao being malevolent earth's death. They hesitated and did not make a move to fight or retreat. Su Zimo stood still for a moment before regaining his senses. He swallowed a few elixirs and put away the mystic magnet mountain. With a cold gaze, he strode towards Tao being Heavenly Dipper. Tao being Heavenly Dipper and the other 2 were hesitant. However, Su Zimo was a decisive person. These titular disciples did not care about their reputation and entered the Tao inheritance ground to join forces to kill him, causing Demoness Ji and Ming Zhen to almost die. The moment he walked out of the 3 tribulations domain, he was prepared to start a massacre. Tao being Heavenly Dipper was a titular disciple after all. When he saw Su Zimo charging over, he quickly calmed down. In his eyes, there were stars flickering, mysterious and unfathomable. Su Zimo, you've only just reached the return to void stage. How much energy and techniques do you have left? Tao Master Heavenly Dipper shouted with a wanton might. His words were also a reminder to Tao being Zephyr Thunder and Tao being Hidden Death who was in the dark. He wanted the 2 of them to strengthen their confidence and continue working together to kill Su Zimo. It's enough to kill you. Su Zimo arrived before Tao being Heavenly Dipper with a murderous aura. With a wave of his left hand, the creation Qinglian shone brightly and tore through the void, releasing streams of chaos qi towards Tao being Heavenly Dipper. Tao being Heavenly Dipper was alarmed. Although the jade green lotus looked weak and fragile, it was actually terrifyingly powerful and could even shatter Khanate Tao being dermic weapons. This was the increase in combat strength that dermic weapons could bring to a cultivator. Many times, a powerful dermic weapon could even help a cultivator kill someone of a higher cultivation level. Tao being Heavenly Dipper's eyes flickered with a calm expression. First, he channeled the astral elephant saber that his sect had passed down from the ancient times and slashed at the creation Qinglian. Thereafter, he gripped Heaven Splitter tightly with his other hand and stabbed it viciously towards Su Zimo's chest. Saber intent burst forth. Although the astral elephant saber was also a Khanate Tao being dermic weapon, it had been passed down through the ages and even with the might of the creation Qinglian, it could not shatter it instantly. Furthermore, Tao being Heavenly Dipper's counterattack was not only a passive defense, but also a powerful counterattack from Heaven Splitter. 2 gigantic stars appeared in Tao being Heavenly Dipper's eyes, replacing his pupils. All of a sudden, without any warning, 2 beams of starlight shot out from Tao being Heavenly Dipper's eyes and pierced towards Su Zimo's face. Star Eye. The legacy visual technique of Heavenly Dipper's sect was extremely powerful. Even against the invincible might of killing 4 titular disciples, Tao being Heavenly Dipper was fearless and counterattacked forcefully, releasing all his trump cards. When he saw that, Tao being Zephyr Thunder's eyes flashed with lightning. Narrowing his eyes, he made up his mind and moved, charging towards Su Zimo's side. Dao being Heavenly Dipper's methods were suffocating. After all, there was only one creation Qinglian. If the two of them worked together, they could definitely kill Su Zimo here. Chi! Chi! The moment stars appeared in Dao being Heavenly Dipper's eyes, Su Zimo's right eye burst with sword beams. The sword beams formed a sword formation in midair. Candlelight sword formation. Starlight descended and collided with the sword formation with a deafening bang. The sword formation dissipated instantly and starlight scattered in a blinding manner. Dao being Heavenly Dipper felt his vision blaze and narrowed his eyes instinctively. When he opened his eyes once more, his body shuddered and he dodged to the side, as though he was pulled by some mysterious force. His two sabers showed signs of leaving his hands as well, and the saber intent that he had just condensed dissipated instantly. Beside Su Zimo stood a gray mountain peak that emitted a mysterious aura and sucked in Dao being Heavenly Dipper's two sabers. The moment Dao being Zephyr Thunder arrived behind Su Zimo, the Zephyr Thunder hammer in his hands slanted and he staggered, almost being pulled over by the Mystic Magnet Mountain as well. The ancient unique treasure, Mystic Magnet Mountain. After Su Zimo killed Dao being Malevolent Earth, he had already retrieved the treasure. At this critical moment, he released it and instantly dispelled the combined attacks of the two titular disciples. Although the two titular disciples' attacks stopped, Su Zimo's movements did not slow down at all. The Emerald Lotus platform descended and smashed down viciously on Dao being Heavenly Dipper's head. At that moment, Dao being Heavenly Dipper wielded two sabers and was sucked in by the Mystic Magnet Mountain as though he was stuck in a swamp. If he did not let go, there was no way he could avoid the creation Qinglian. However, the moment he let go, he would lose two connate dermic weapons. In a flash, Dao being Heavenly Dipper made a decision and released his grip. He gave up on the connate dermic weapons and retreated, wanting to turn and escape. Right then, a strange black glint shone in Su Zimo's eyes. Caught off guard, Dao being Heavenly Dipper exchanged glances and his mind went blank for a moment with a bang. Heavenly Fiend Eye. Starlight shone brightly in Dao being Heavenly Dipper's consciousness, creating raging waves. Dao being Heavenly Dipper jolted awake instantly. It was another visual technique. Dao being Heavenly Dipper broke out in cold sweat. If it was anyone else, even if they were not controlled by the Heavenly Fiend Eye, they would not have woken up so quickly. However, that slight delay was enough for Dao being Heavenly Dipper to escape Qinglian's attack range. His palm pulled at his waist and directly crushed a jade ornament hanging on his waist. Swoosh! A bedazzling light flashed and enveloped him. Protection dermic weapon. Boom! At the same time that the protection dermic weapon was formed, the creation Qinglian collided with it with a loud bang. Crack! 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 With a single strike, the creation Qinglian shattered the protection dermic weapon's barrier. Dao being Heavenly Dipper made use of the opportunity to retreat. Su Zimo flicked his wrist and the creation Qinglian spun in his palm. The seemingly weak lotus leaf brushed past Dao being Heavenly Dipper's throat gently. Shing! A stream of blood spewed out. Dao being Heavenly Dipper's head was severed neatly. The edges of the lotus leaf were sharper than divine weapons. Chapter 1030. Although Dao being Heavenly Dipper was a titular disciple with rich experience and knowledge, he knew nothing about creation Qinglian. Or rather, there were not many people in the cultivation world who knew about creation Qinglian. Dao being Heavenly Dipper could not have imagined that the crystalline lotus leaves that were as thin as a cicada's wings would possess such terrifying lethality. This kind of killing method was really unconventional and illogical. However, the outcome was extremely cruel. His head was severed and his body was crippled. A glowing figure flew out from the head. Dao being Heavenly Dipper's essence spirit had a terrified expression and wanted to escape like a stray dog. Om! Su Zimo chanted Sanskrit and the damning mantra descended. Tao being Heavenly Dipper's essence spirit shuddered and the light that was initially revolving around it dimmed significantly. Ma! The damning mantra sounded again. Tao being Heavenly Dipper's body shuddered once more and the light on his essence spirit was almost negligible. Ni. Pa. Su Zimo did not stop at all and released 4 damning mantras consecutively, not giving Tao being Heavenly Dipper any chance to catch his breath. Tao being Heavenly Dipper's essence spirit paused in midair step by step. He had just taken 4 steps when cracks appeared on his primordial spirit. Without the protection of his body, his essence spirit could not withstand the repeated impact of the 4 damning mantras and his life force disappeared as he fell from midair. Tao being Heavenly Dipper was dead. The initially restless crowd had long quietened down and was as silent as cicadas in winter. All the cultivators held their breaths and focused, as though they were suppressed by an inexplicable aura. They did not dare to speak, afraid that a calamity would befall them. Including Tao being Heavenly Dipper, there were already 5 titular disciples who had died in the Tao inheritance ground. Furthermore, all of them died in the hands of a single person. What was even more frightening was that there was a high chance that this number would increase once more. Tao being Zephyr Thunder was retreating. Finally, a hint of panic appeared in his eyes. What treasure? What Purple Thunder manual? He did not want any of it. It did not matter even if his reputation was ruined. Right now, he only wanted to leave the Tao inheritance ground alive. This place was simply a nightmare for titular disciples. Right then, Su Zimo turned around slowly and looked at Tao being Zephyr Thunder with a bone-chilling gaze. Tao being Zephyr Thunder realized that he might not be able to escape. Araki Takashi, you've killed too many people this time. Taoist Zephyr Thunder suddenly spoke. Oh. Su Zimo raised his eyebrows and asked, so what? Tao being Zephyr Thunder said, titular disciples have an extremely high status in the various super sections. The super sects might not bother about you killing other cultivators of the sect. However, if you kill a titular disciple, the major sects will definitely not let this matter rest. By now, there are already 5 titular disciples who have died in your hands. This means that you've already offended 5 super sects. 100 Refinement sect alone can't protect you. If Extreme Fire's attitude is tough, the only outcome is for 100 Refinement sect to be destroyed along with you. Su Zimo's expression was calm as he asked with a faint smile, so? Tao being Zephyr Thunder was enraged. He had said so much but Su Zimo did not take it seriously at all. Given his status and reputation in the cultivation world, who would dare to be so rude and look down on him? However, he suppressed his anger before long. Due to the circumstances, he could only endure it. Tao being Zephyr Thunder took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, therefore, you've already killed enough titular disciples. If you attack me again, you'll have to face the revenge of the 6 super sections. You can't withstand it. Oh, Su Zimo replied nonchalantly and said indifferently, so what? I'll kill however many come. The reason why I, Su Zimo, am where I am today is because I stepped on the corpses of countless paragons. Fufu. Tao being Zephyr Thunder laughed as well. Araki Takashi, I don't think you understand what I mean. If the 6 super sects want revenge, they won't be looking for void reversions, but Dharma Dao Jun, a conjoint body mighty figure. A commotion broke out in the crowd. Many cultivators knew that Tao being Zephyr Thunder's words were definitely not meant to scare Su Zimo. The death of a titular disciple was definitely a huge matter for the super sects. It was normal for Dharma Dao Jun to appear or alert a conjoint body mighty figure. There's something I've never understood, Su Zimo smiled gently and asked, in the Tao inheritance ground this time round, you guys joined forces to kill me but I killed you instead. How can the sects behind you have the cheek to seek revenge from me? Furthermore, they even have to send out Dharma Dao Jun, a conjoint body mighty figure? Tao being Zephyr Thunder felt a burning sensation on his face. Normally speaking, in the cultivation world, even if someone died in a fight between cultivators of the same cultivation realm, the experts of the sects would not appear. That was because if the conflict escalated, there was a high chance that it would cause a chaotic battle between two major sects or even multiple factions. The situation would be out of control. Since ancient times, there had been countless painful lessons like this. Therefore, generally speaking, even if one party died in a fight between cultivators of the same cultivation realm, it could only be because they were inferior and there would not be any sect experts seeking revenge. However, Su Zimo's situation was different. Behind him was a declining 100 Refinements sect. However, 100 Refinements sect was only one of the unorthodox groups. Even with an expert like Extreme Fire, he would not be able to stop super sects such as the Immortal, Buddhist and Fiend sects. Most importantly, Su Zimo had already incurred a feud with the super sections. They would definitely not allow such a terrifying monster incarnate to grow. Out of fear, the super sects would definitely take action. If such a monster incarnate were to advance to the Dharma characteristic realm, there would probably not be many people in the entire cultivation world who could suppress him. No matter what, you've already offended so many sections. It's not good for you to incur the wrath of Zephyr Thunder Palace, Tao being Zephyr Thunder said in a deep voice. Although his words were beautiful, many cultivators could tell that Tao being Zephyr Thunder was begging for mercy. Su Zimo sneered internally. Even if he wanted to stop, Zephyr Thunder Palace would definitely not let him off. As long as he did not hand over the Purple Thunder Manual, Zephyr Thunder Palace would continue to hunt him down. There's something else that you're wrong about. Su Zimo looked at Tao being Zephyr Thunder and said slowly, since I've already offended so many sects, I don't mind adding Zephyr Thunder Palace to the list. Crackle. In a flash, Su Zimo had already vanished from the spot and charged towards Tao being Zephyr Thunder. Zephyr Thunder escape. As though he was prepared, Tao being Zephyr Thunder did not say anything and turned to flee with a violent gust of wind and lightning. The two cultivators were extremely fast and passed through the crowd instantly. Suddenly, a pair of gigantic dermic power wings grew from Su Zimo's back. Ethereal wings was a secret skill comprehended by an ancient mighty figure through observation of the Rakshasa race. Although his speed was far from the frightening level of the Rakshasa race, Su Zimo's speed doubled once more with lightning escape. Kill! Su Zimo roared and thunderclap kill burst forth. Boom! Tao being Zephyr Thunder felt as though thunder had exploded in his ears and his blood chi surged. It was extremely uncomfortable and his movement technique slowed down. Right at that moment, Su Zimo caught up from behind and waved the creation Qinglian in his hands, smashing it towards Tao being Zephyr Thunder with a flickering light. Chapter 1031. Araki Takashi, you've gone too far. Tao being Zephyr Thunder twisted his body in midair with widened eyes. With a long roar, he swung his Zephyr Thunder hammer towards the creation Qinglian. Boom! The creation Qinglian collided with the Zephyr Thunder hammer with a loud bang. The Zephyr Thunder hammer was a legacy dermic weapon of Zephyr Thunder Palace from the ancient era. Although the creation Qinglian was strong, it could not shatter it with a single strike. However, Tao being Zephyr Thunder did not have it that good. The power of the creation Qinglian surged into his body through the Zephyr Thunder hammer, causing him to fall rapidly. Even his arm that wielded the Zephyr Thunder hammer was trembling slightly. In melee combat, he was no match for Su Zimo at all. Furthermore, Su Zimo possessed a killing weapon like the creation Lotus platform. Apocalyptic Five Thunders. As Tao being Zephyr Thunder retreated, he conjured hand seals and released the legacy phenomenon of Zephyr Thunder Palace in the form of a dermic art. Rumble. Boom. Boom. In the firmaments, the dark clouds were thick like lead and shone with bolts of lightning. Dull thunder rumbled as though a god was riding a chariot and galloping recklessly. There were a total of 5 divine thunderbolts in the apocalyptic 5 thunders. Each one was more terrifying than the last. If 5 of them were gathered, they would have the power to destroy the world. Tao being Zephyr Thunder believed that Su Zimo had expended a huge amount of dermic powers after fighting the four of them consecutively. At that moment, he did not have much dermic powers left and it would be difficult for him to defend against his apocalyptic five thunders. In reality, Tao being Zephyr Thunder was right. In Su Zimo's current state, his essence spirit was weak and it was indeed difficult for him to conjure dermic arts. However, he had the creation Qinglian. After the creation Qinglian entered maturity, not only did its power increase tremendously, there were also many mysterious and shocking aspects to it. Su Zimo injected the remaining dermic powers in his body into the creation Qinglian. With a single thought, the creation Qinglian expanded rapidly. In the blink of an eye, it surpassed Su Zimo. Its gigantic lotus flower floated in midair and blocked the first divine thunderbolt that descended with ease. This is only the first one. The more powerful ones are yet to come. Tao being Zephyr Thunder grit his teeth and channeled his dermic powers furiously, changing hand seals. Before long, a second divine thunder was condensed beneath the dark clouds. You have no chance, Su Zimo said lightly. He loosened his grip, and under countless gazes, creation Qinglian rose rapidly, crashing into the dark clouds in the sky. Between heaven and earth, everything was filled by this Qinglian. The stem of the lotus was jade green and straight, reaching into the sky. The gigantic lotus leaves blotted out the sky, as if they were going to envelop all the cultivators in this world. The azure lotus platform broke through the ink-black clouds. The 6 layers of lotus petals bloomed layer by layer, emitting endless rays of light. This scene was too shocking. All the cultivators were incomparably tiny before this Qinglian. This is the real creation, Qinglian. That was the only thought left in the minds of many cultivators. Their eyes were widened and their mouths were agape in shock as they exclaimed at the same time. A Qinglian rose from the ground, wanting to break through the firmaments and shatter the void. The Qinglian swayed and rays of light filled the skies. The entire space of the Tao inheritance ground trembled and shuddered. Many cultivators had a feeling that if not for the wills of the ancient mighty figures stabilizing this space, the creation Qinglian would have been able to pierce a hole in the heavens. The thick dark clouds that Tao being Zephyr Thunder condensed were shattered into pieces by the creation green lotus with a gentle sway. Rays of light filled the air and pierced the dark clouds with holes. Whatever divine thunder, it instantly vanished into thin air. Before the second divine thunder descended, the apocalyptic 5 thunders was already broken through by the creation Qinglian and shattered. Tao being Zephyr Thunder's face was pale. In the face of the creation Qinglian, titular disciples were nothing. It was way too scary. Who would be able to restrain such a monster incarnate with the support of such a terrifying dermic weapon in the future? Shoo! A green stream of light flashed. The creation Qinglian returned to its original size and returned to Su Zimo's palm. Su Zimo's gaze was cold as he charged towards Tao being Zephyr Thunder, not giving him a chance to catch his breath. What other methods do you have? Release them all. Su Zimo hollered and waved the creation Qinglian gently, scattering endless rays of light that enveloped Tao being Zephyr Thunder. A look of despair flashed through Tao being Zephyr Thunder's eyes. What other methods did he have? Even if he was in his peak condition, he could only die here against the suppression of the creation Qinglian. Suddenly, he felt a hint of regret. If he had retreated in time, if he had been more decisive and if he had not been so greedy, he might not have died here. Thousands of thoughts surged into his mind and turned into an indignant roar. Tao being Zephyr Thunder was a titular disciple after all and would definitely not allow himself to be captured. After severing all his thoughts, he swung the Zephyr Thunder hammer with both hands, conjuring a tornado that connected the heavens and the earth that charged towards Su Zimo. Boom! The creation Qinglian collided with the tornado with a loud bang. The tornado dissipated and the Zephyr Thunder hammer fell to the side. Tao being Zephyr Thunder opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood, falling weakly to the back. Suddenly, a beam of light flew out from his head and fled into the distance. The crowd was in an uproar when they saw that Dao being Zephyr Thunder's body was not damaged to the point where he had to abandon it. However, in order to escape, Dao being Zephyr Thunder abandoned his body and released his essence spirit. His speed burst forth and he sped into the distance at an extreme. Fu, Su Zimo chuckled. Dao being Zephyr Thunder's essence spirit, who had not escaped far, suddenly paused and looked ahead in fear. In front of him and behind him, two shimmering specks of light shone. They were the sharp seeds of Qinglian. Prior to this, the 52 Qinglian seeds fought against the essence spirit secret skills of the four titular disciples. The glow dimmed and their sharpness was gone. They had already returned to the lotus platform. Among the 54 Qinglian seeds, there were still 2 Qinglian seeds left. However, they were unaffected and continued to emit a glow, transforming into 2 flying swords that blocked Dao being Zephyr Thunder. Su Zimo had expected that Dao being Zephyr Thunder's essence spirit would leave his body and released the 2 Qinglian seeds a long time ago. The moment Dao being Zephyr Thunder's essence spirit moved, the 2 Qinglian seeds had already chased after him. Su Zimo walked towards Dao being Zephyr Thunder's essence spirit and asked in a seemingly casual manner, "Zephyr Thunder, do you know why I left you for last?" The 4 titular disciples besieged Su Zimo and his counterattacks varied in order. Why? At this point, Dao being Zephyr Thunder knew that he was going to die. Instead, he calmed down and asked instead. Su Zimo said coolly, "That's because you want my purple thunder manual and I want your green thunder manual." Ha 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 ha. Dao being Zephyr Thunder reared his head in laughter. Araki Takashi, oh Araki Takashi, you're still too young. How can the storage bags of us cultivators contain secret skills of our sex? It's easy for you to kill me, but you're dreaming if you want to obtain the green thunder manual. Dao being Zephyr Thunder's eyes were filled with mockery, as though he could die in peace if he could deal a blow to Su Zimo before he died. Su Zimo arrived before Dao being Zephyr Thunder and grabbed his essence spirit in his palm, saying indifferently, "Not necessarily." Soul-searching art. Su Zimo hollered softly. Chapter 1032. This was the first time Su Zimo used the soul-searching art after he devoured the reborn essence spirit of half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky and cultivated the Dao Heart Fiend Seed Sutra. Although there was no essence spirit attack technique in the Dao Heart Fiend Seed Sutra, this essence spirit secret skill was extremely terrifying as well. If used properly, it could be extremely useful. A transparent ball of light appeared in Su Zimo's palm. Dao being Zephyr Thunder's essence spirit was within and was extremely terrified. Pitch-black fiend Qi appeared on the surface of the ball of light and coiled around Dao being Zephyr Thunder's essence spirit as though it possessed a spirit consciousness. In the blink of an eye, Dao being Zephyr Thunder's body was coiled with pitch-black fiend Qi. Like chains, he was fixed to the ball of light and could not move at all. Immediately after, a large number of unfamiliar memories surged into Su Zimo's mind. The soul-searching art was not without restrictions. If he were to search through all of Dao being Zephyr Thunder's memories, they would be the memories of a cultivator's entire life. Su Zimo would not be able to withstand it at all. Furthermore, there was a chance that the soul-searching art might fail midway. The best way was to browse quickly. Memories of insignificant information flashed through his mind. He would only stop when there was useful information and extract that portion of memories to memorize. Su Zimo gripped the creation Qinglian in his left hand and shook it gently. He lowered his gaze and memories flashed through his mind one after another. As time passed by, Dao being Zephyr Thunder's essence spirit in the ball of light was withering at a visible speed. Although his life force was still present, the light on his essence spirit dimmed. Ah! Dao being Zephyr Thunder let out a tragic cry in the ball of light. He felt as though something that belonged to him was being extracted from his body bit by bit irreversibly. It was an extremely uncomfortable feeling. While the soul-searching art extracted memories, it would also cause irreversible damage to the essence spirit. Therefore, even if the essence spirit survived in the end, it would definitely lose its memories or turn into an idiot. All of a sudden, Su Zimo's eyes lit up. The memories that were initially flashing through his mind suddenly paused and began to fade slowly. It was a secret inheritance chamber in Zephyr Thunder Palace. An old man with a dignified expression handed a slightly yellowed ancient book to Tao Being Zephyr Thunder. 3 words were written on the ancient book, Green Thunder Manual. Remember, this Green Thunder Manual is not a complete cultivation technique. It has to be fused with Purple Thunder Manual to form the Great Void Spirit Refinement section. In the Great Void Spirit Refinement section, there's an essence spirit secret skill known as the Wrath of Thunder that's extremely powerful. In the primordial era, countless experts of the foreign races died under the Wrath of Thunder. The Zephyr Thunder Palace said Zephyr. The scene Zimo Zephyr Thunder. Zephyr Palace. Zephyr Thunder Palace's a god. Zephy Spirit Zephyr Zor Dao Zephyr is. Zephyr Dao Zephyr. This feeling was extremely strange. This was a top-tier cultivation technique obtained by absorbing another person's memories. If this was in the past, Su Zimo would not even dare to think about it. Such a crafty method was completely beyond his understanding. After memorizing the Green Thunder Manual, Su Zimo wanted to continue browsing Tao Being Zephyr Thunder's other memories to see if there were any powerful cultivation techniques or secret skills that he could absorb. However, he suddenly felt the scene before him blur. Immediately after, the fiend chi in the ball of light in his palm snapped. The soul-searching art had already ended. Thankfully, he managed to browse quickly and found an important segment like the Green Thunder Manual. Otherwise, if he were to browse slowly, the soul-searching art might have ended before he could finish reading Tao Being Zephyr Thunder's memories. Within the ball of light, Tao Being Zephyr Thunder's gaze was unfocused and he looked like he was in a daze. There was no pity in Su Zimo's eyes as he exerted strength in his palm and crushed Tao Being Zephyr Thunder's essence spirit. If he were to fall into Tao Being Zephyr Thunder's hands, his outcome would be even more tragic. Tao Being Zephyr Thunder was dead. At this point of the battle, the dust had already settled. Outside the 3 tribulations domain, the 4 titular disciples surrounded Su Zimo. However, they were completely annihilated and were killed here without a single survivor. Many cultivators looked at the messy battlefield with conflicted expressions. Sigh, to think that this would be the outcome of this battle. As expected of the strongest monster incarnate in history. I heard that his strength is still greatly restricted in this Tao inheritance ground. It's truly hard to imagine how strong this person's combat strength would be if he was outside. Araki Takashi established his Tao and imparted martial arts to all living beings. It might not be a bad thing for the cultivation world for someone with such boldness and magnanimity. Fufu, now that the 6 super sects have suffered such a huge loss, how can they allow Tao Being Araki Takashi to continue growing? They'll definitely attack to kill him. Agreed. If not for the fact that the power of conjoint body mighty figures cannot penetrate the Tao inheritance ground, there would be mighty figures who would not be able to sit still. Many cultivators did not disperse as they discussed softly. In reality, they were not wrong. The death of Tao Being Heavenly Dipper, Tao Being Zephyr Thunder and the other titular disciples had long caused an uproar in the cultivation world outside. Glass Palace, Formless Monastery, Heavenly Dipper Sect, Malevolent Earth Sect, Zephyr Thunder Palace and even Poison Sect were making huge moves as they prepared to kill 100 Refinement Sect. Ever since the catastrophe 10,000 years ago ended, although the blood of the cultivation world had never stopped, there were very few major events that caused conjoint body mighty figures to come out of seclusion. But this time round, more than one conjoint body mighty figure had appeared. Instantly, Tianhuang mainland was in turmoil. Middle Continent, 100 Refinement Sect. The news of the Tao inheritance ground had already spread to 100 Refinement Sect. Everyone in the sect was shocked. As for Chigurumon's spirit cranes, they were all over Tianhuang mainland. The commotion of Heavenly Dipper sect, Malevolent Earth sect, Formless Monastery and other super sects spread to 100 Refinement sect one after another. In the 100 Refinement Great Hall, Extreme Fire and the others had grim expressions. What should we do? Although Tao Lord White Flames knew that Su Zimo was the disciple of Grandmaster Extreme Fire, he was a little anxious at this moment. As the Patriarch of 100 Refinement Sect, he naturally had to think for 100 Refinement Sect and said in a deep voice, Grandmaster Extreme Fire, please forgive me for being direct. We can't protect Uncle Master Su. He's in big trouble this time round. Extreme Fire frowned slightly and glared, asking coldly, is he to blame for this? What do you expect him to do if those titular disciples join forces to kill him? Is he supposed to stand on the spot and let others slaughter him? The 3 consecutive questions stumped Tao Lord White Flames and he was so anxious that he was sweating profusely. But Tao Lord White Flames was extremely anxious and hesitated to speak. Extreme Fire, White Flames is also thinking for 100 Refinement Sect. Shangguanzi had a calm expression and said in a deep voice, he's right. 100 Refinement Sect can't protect Su Zimo indeed, even if the 4 unorthodox groups join forces. The 4 unorthodox groups specialized in unorthodox disciplines such as weapon refinement and talisman creation. In terms of combat strength, they were far inferior to the experts of the 9 immortal sects, 7 fiend sects and 6 Buddhist monasteries. Even after 100,000 years, there might not be an expert like Extreme Fire among the unorthodox groups. Chapter 1033. That's right. Elder Gu nodded as well. We all understand. This child is not bad and even saved your life. You don't want him to die, but the reality is right in front of you. 100 Refinement Sect can't protect him. Elder Gu suggested, why don't we send this child away after he comes out? To where? Shengguanzi frowned. Who in Tianhuang mainland would dare to get involved with this lad? Should we ask Enigma Palace to step in? Elder Gu said in a deep voice, Enigma Palace has always been fair and impartial. Su Zimo is not at fault here. Enigma Palace might be able to protect him. Furthermore, Enigma Palace does have the strength to do so. If there was any faction in Tianhuang mainland that could defend against the attacks of the 6 super sects, it would probably be the most mysterious Enigma Palace. It's useless. Shengguanzi shook her head. If the 6 super sects attack, they don't have to use the excuse of taking revenge for the titular disciple. They just have to say that they're here to slay demons. No matter how strong Enigma Palace is, they wouldn't dare to withstand such immense pressure to protect a cultivator who might be a fiend demon. That's not in line with Enigma Palace's style. Elder Gu and the others knew that Shengguanzi was right. Everyone exchanged glances and sighed deeply. This was a dead end that could not be broken. Extreme Fire's expression was dark and he remained silent. No one knew what he was thinking about. Extreme Fire, let me say something. Don't be angry. Elder Gu was silent for a long time before saying, right now, the only chance of survival is for Su Zimo to leave 100 Refinement Sect and fend for himself. I believe that given this child's temperament, he'll be able to understand us. Elder Gu added, that's right. Tianhuang mainland is boundless and there might be a chance of survival. At the very least, he can head to the 8 demon regions. Actually, he could only deceive himself with that statement. With the conjoint body mighty figures of the 6 super sects of the human race making a move, no demon region would be able to wage a bloody war against the 6 super sects for Su Zimo. Right then, Extreme Fire suddenly said, when he returns, I'll take him away from 100 Refinement Sect. From now on, I have nothing to do with 100 Refinement Sect. Ah! Everyone exclaimed and looked at Extreme Fire in disbelief. Everyone understood that the reason why Extreme Fire said that he had nothing to do with 100 Refinement Sect was because he did not want to implicate them. The 6 super sects had no reason to vent their anger on 100 Refinement sect because of Su Zimo and him. But no one expected that Extreme Fire would actually make such a huge sacrifice for Su Zimo, abandoning everything to bring Su Zimo to the ends of the earth. Extreme Fire, you've just been reborn. There's no need to. Shengguanzi was agitated, her voice choked with sobs, and she could not continue. Extreme Fire patted Shengguanzi's palm gently. A hint of guilt flashed through his eyes as he said gently, "Shengguan, I have to let you down again." Shengguanzi shook her head and did not say anything. She only grabbed Extreme Fire's arm and refused to let go. "You might have misunderstood me." Extreme Fire said, "The reason why I'm so protective of Zimo and even risking my life with him is not because he saved me before. It was because he was a Rocky Takashi. He wanted to establish his Tao. He wanted to establish his Tao for all living beings in the world. That reason alone is enough for me to do everything I can to protect him even if I have to die." Everyone was moved and their hearts skipped a beat. Elder Gu and the others shook their heads and sighed. Back then, the 3 of them pursued Shengguanzi at the same time, but she chose Extreme Fire. All these years, the 2 of them were still indignant. However, just now, they realized the difference between them and Extreme Fire. Right then, 100 Refinement sect cultivator rushed in and panted, "Patriarch, seniors, a Dharma Daojun requests an audience outside. He claims to be Shura." Everyone's expressions changed slightly. "Tao Lord Shura? What is he doing here?" Elder Gu frowned. Hakka Adojin pondered for a moment before waving his hand. "Let him in." Although Tao Lord Shura had a terrible reputation in the cultivation world for being cold-blooded and bloodthirsty, he seemed to have some ties with Su Zimo. Furthermore, 100 Refinement sect had no feud with Shura. At that moment, there was no need for Shura to come to 100 Refinement sect to kill anyone. Before long, Yen Beichen strode in expressionlessly and was dressed in long black robes. His face looked unusually pale and he strode in. Hakka Adojin and Shengguanzi scanned with their spirit consciousnesses and could not help but frown. Elder Gu of Elixir Yang sect twitched his nose and sniffed, sensing something as well. Yen Beichen was injured. Furthermore, it was an injury to his essence spirit that was extremely difficult to recover from. Extreme Fire asked indifferently, "Shura, why have you come to 100 Refinement sect?" Shura did not bow either. With a cold expression, he went straight to the point. "If Su Zimo returns and your 100 Refinement sect wants to abandon him, I'll take him away." At that point, the entire hall fell silent. Hakka Adojin looked at Yen Beichen with a gentler gaze. Shengguanzi asked, "Where are you taking him? Even Shura sect won't be able to protect him. Don't forget that Malevolent Earth sect is one of the 6 major sections. The world is huge. There's nowhere we can't stay." Yen Beichen was still expressionless as he said indifferently. The cultivators in the hall fell silent. The legendary cold-blooded, heartless and bloodthirsty Shura made the same decision as Extreme Fire after hearing the news of the 6 major sects. He was going to abandon his status and reputation in the cultivation world and protect Su Zimo from now on. Who said that such a person was cold-blooded and heartless? Hakka Adojin looked at Yen Beichen and said softly, "If I'm not wrong, your essence spirit is severely injured. Were you injured when you killed Tao Lord Immortal Sword and the others?" Yen Beichen remained silent and admitted to it. "It's very difficult for you to recover from your injuries. Instead of resting and recuperating, you want to flee with someone. Don't you want to live anymore?" Hakka Adojin asked again. "I'll do my best," Yen Beichen lowered his head slightly and replied. Even if he was severely injured, he had to protect Su Zimo and leave. Elder Gu's heart skipped a beat as he lamented, "Rumors are harmful and public opinion is powerful. Now that I've met him today, I finally understand Shura's character." For some reason, Elder Gu felt a lump in his throat and tears welled up in his eyes. He hurried forward and took out a small bottle from his storage bag, handing it to Yen Beichen. This is a 9 revolutions soul return elixir. I only have one on me and it's good for your essence spirit injuries. Take it. Everyone's hearts were greatly shaken. The 9 revolutions soul return elixir was an elixir from the ancient era. The refinement method had long been lost and there would be one less elixir used. Most importantly, the 9 revolutions soul return elixir was almost the best elixir for repairing one's essence spirit. This elixir was definitely a priceless treasure. In the cultivation world, even conjoint body mighty figures would fight to the death for it. However, Yen Beichen did not appreciate the fact that Elder Gu took out such a precious item. He harumphed and turned his head with a disdainful expression. He was Shura and had never accepted anything from others. How could he accept charity as such? However, he seemed to have thought of something and a conflicted look flashed through his eyes. After hesitating for a long time, he turned to take the bottle and said, "Thank you." Shura had never said a word of thanks in his entire life. But today, he broke his vow. "Consume it here and heal your injuries as soon as possible," Extreme Fire said. "As for Zimo, let's wait and see. There might be other solutions." Shura did not say anything and merely put away the bottle carefully without consuming the 9 revolutions soul return elixir. Extreme Fire and the others were confused but they did not ask further. Chapter 1034. Outside the 3 tribulations domain, the battle had already ended but many cultivators were still lingering. Many people had yet to recover from the shock just now as they looked at the green-robed cultivator on the battlefield. I reckon that from today onwards, the title of the number 1 perfected lord will no longer belong to Araki Takashi. Right now, he should be the number 1 Dao being. Not necessarily. Don't forget that there's still Diyin. Many cultivators were invigorated. They realized that there might be another world-shaking battle that would be even more terrifying than this one. On the battlefield, Su Zimo consumed some elixirs and collected the battlefield while recovering his stamina and essence spirit. After he entered the Dao inheritance ground, almost everyone he killed were titular disciples. Although there were no cultivation techniques or secret skills in the storage bags of titular disciples, there were indeed all sorts of superior-grade elixirs. The belongings of Dao being Heavenly Dipper and the other 3 titular disciples were all good stuff as well. Notwithstanding the items in their storage bags, their destiny dermic weapons were Khanate dermic weapons that were passed down from the ancient era. In fact, they could even defend against the creation of Qinglian without shattering. Right then, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat and a cold glint shone in his eyes. He turned around slightly and looked into the void not far away. No matter what, Araki Takashi established his Dao and killed 4 titular disciples the moment he entered the void reversion realm. His momentum is truly unstoppable. That's right. Dao being hidden death is the only one who left. Dao being hidden death sure is smart. He did not attack the entire time and managed to avoid a calamity. The discussions of the cultivators did not stop. Dao being hidden death did not go far and hid nearby. When he heard the discussions of the cultivators, he felt a bitter taste in his mouth that he could not express. Ever since the battle broke out, he had been lingering around Su Zimo, waiting for an opportunity to deal a fatal blow. However, he did not attack the entire time. It was not that he did not want to, but that he truly did not have the chance. The 4 titular disciples released their essence spirit secret skills at the same time. That time, he had just appeared before hiding again. Even if he had attacked once, he would not have been able to hurt Su Zimo in the slightest. That was because Su Zimo had an essence spirit dermic weapon that he had yet to use and could defend against his essence spirit secret skill at the very least. This kind of attack was meaningless, so he hid himself again and waited patiently. However, as time passed and the titular disciples died in the hands of Su Zimo one after another, he suddenly realized that his chances were getting fewer and fewer. Now that all 4 titular disciples were dead, he did not dare to make a move. Compared to Tian Gang and the others, at least I managed to keep my life. Taoist Hidden Death comforted. Right at this moment, he suddenly felt a bone-piercing chill. All the hairs on his body stood on end. Su Zimo had turned his head and was staring at his position. Dao being Hidden Death felt his scalp tingle as he tried his best to circulate the fiend techniques of Hidden Death sect, calming his aura, bloodline flow, and heartbeat. However, Su Zimo did not retract his gaze. He was still staring at his position, and there seemed to be a trace of mockery in his eyes. How is that possible? Dao being Hidden Death tried his best to control his mind and prevent himself from fluctuating too much. He closed his eyes and retracted the light in his eyes. There's no way he can discover my tracks. This must be a coincidence. Dao being Hidden Death thought to himself. The methods of the Hidden Death sect were assassination and concealment. This was the foundation of their sect and also the greatest reliance of the Hidden Death sect cultivators. Even the Dharma Dao Jun would not be able to discover his tracks, let alone cultivators of the same cultivation realm. Otherwise, he would have died countless times over the past thousands of years. At this moment, a faint sigh rang out on the battlefield, causing his heart to instantly sink to the bottom of the valley. You didn't escape earlier on. You won't have the chance now. Su Zimo looked at the void not far away and his eyes lit up as he attacked brazenly. Initially, many cultivators were confused and did not know what Su Zimo was lamenting to the air not far away. However, right after Su Zimo attacked, a blurry figure appeared in the void. Dao being Hidden Death. The crowd was in an uproar. None of them could discover Dao being Hidden Death's tracks and thought that he had left long ago. To think that he was still captured by Su Zimo. That's impossible. Dao being Hidden Death retreated and shrieked, Araki Takashi, how did you discover my tracks? Just now, he did not reveal any flaws and Su Zimo could not have noticed him. However, the current reality was extremely cruel. One chased while the other fled. However, the distance between them was closing rapidly. In just a few breaths, Dao being Hidden Death could already feel the pressure approaching him from behind, suffocating him. Although he was a titular disciple of Hidden Death sect, his combat strength was far inferior to Dao being Heavenly Dipper and the others. Even Dao being Zephyr Thunder could not escape from Su Zimo's pursuit, let alone him. Seeing that he had no chance of escaping, a ferocious glint flashed through Dao being Hidden Death's eyes. He turned around and waved his sleeves, thrusting out a sword that shone with a cold glint towards Su Zimo's glabella. At the same time, he activated his Essence Spirit secret skill. God-piercing dagger. A massive spirit consciousness condensed into a dagger and flew out from Dao being Hidden Death's glabella, piercing towards Su Zimo instantly. Whoosh! Su Zimo's left wrist shone brightly with a Buddhist light, forming a barrier around him with sacred and mysterious golden runes shimmering on it. Mingwang prayer beads. Boom! The dagger stabbed into the golden light barrier, and a loud sound erupted. The dagger dissipated instantly and the barrier shook violently. Although it dimmed significantly, it did not shatter and dissipate. After advancing to the Void Reversion Realm, Su Zimo activated the Mingwang prayer beads and the Essence Spirit barrier formed by him became even more unshakable. Looking at the incoming sword, Su Zimo did not use creation at all. Qinglian reached out with her right hand and placed it on the sword in a seemingly soft manner, coiling and vibrating. Piak! The sword was sent flying by his palm. Right then, a cold glint flashed and a chilling killing intent burst forth. There was an almost transparent dagger hidden within the sword earlier on. If one did not look carefully, they would not be able to see anything at all. Shadowless dagger. It was a connate dermic weapon that Hidden Death sect inherited from the ancient times. It was bright and there was not even a shadow. The moment the sword was sent flying, Dao being Hidden Death withdrew the shadowless dagger and stabbed towards Su Zimo once more. Fu! Su Zimo sneered and opened his palm, grabbing the incoming dagger. Poof! The shadowless dagger pierced through Su Zimo's flesh and even pierced his palm. However, the dagger was stuck in the gaps between his bones and could not move at all. No matter how Dao Being Hidden Death spun, he could not injure Su Zimo's right hand. Right then, the initially transparent dagger gradually revealed traces of movement. The shadowless dagger turned incomparably red, like a piece of metal that was burnt through. Divine Phoenix Bone. Dao Being Hidden Death's pupils constricted as that thought flashed through his mind. Su Zimo took advantage of the situation and raised his palm. The scarlet shadowless dagger streaked through the air with a streak of blood. Dao Being Hidden Death's expression froze. I got it. The legacy of the fiend's sex that you obtained can see through my tracks. After saying that, half of Dao Being Hidden Death's head slid down slowly and his life force dissipated. Dao Being Hidden Death's head was sliced into two by the shadowless dagger and his essence spirit could not escape. Dao Being Hidden Death was dead. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.